This video has been created for educational and entertainment purposes. Please do not attack or harass any people mentioned in this video. We have tried our best to form the timeline for internet blood sports. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy.
Girl, I'ma take you to Walmart, I'ma take you to Mervin's too, I'ma take you to the Sydney Zoo. Girl, I'ma take you to Walmart, I'ma take you to Mervin's too, I'ma take you to the Sydney Zoo. Girl, you make me do some crazy things, say crazy things.
Welcome. Today I'm here to tell the tale of IBS, otherwise known as Internet Blood Sports. Most simply, Internet Blood Sports is a no-holds-barred streaming community formed in 2017 that debate just about everything. The streaming aspect essentially maximizes viewer interactions through the live chat and call-ins. This is usually encouraged by the actual streamers and has led to the audience playing both minor and major roles in some of Internet Blood Sports' most important events.
Stay the fuck back!
To many people's surprise, including my own, SomeBlackGuy is one of the most influential founding fathers in the IBS community. His love for one girl would lead to an internet war that would force sides to be taken and battles to be had. So let us first venture into SomeBlackGuy's past to meet the manlet, and only then can we understand how he fueled these online atrocities. Ever heard of black metal? Well, SomeBlackGuy has been in more bands than you can squeeze a sauce bottle to. He's a musician of every genre, including punk,
I wanna go to the beach today, so my daddy gonna go to the beach today, and my mama's gonna go to the beach today, so that we can serve.
metal, rap,
Welcome to the show, this about to blow like a porno flick, spitting sick shit and searching for a tip or two.
and whatever rockabilly is. Now I'm not gonna lie, some of these tunes are pretty catchy. I used his rap about the Sydney Zoo in my introduction. I think that's cultural appropriation, singing about Sydney Zoo, but we'll leave it. And yeah, I'll be trying to use some of his music throughout, so look out for it, eh? Here's a clip of him discussing how he missed out on signing to some major record label. You know, every musician, oh, I just missed out on signing to a major record label. Oh, you know, just by a day, I was sleeping that day, my bad.
And now I'm at the point where I've been in a metal band that was pretty successful, and right when I quit, they got, you know, signed to Metal Blade, big ass label. They fucking toured all around the US and I tagged along with them to just fuck around. You know, I know what the fuck's going on.
It's also worth mentioning, he was part of a band called the Pedophiles. So make of that what you will.
Last thing I want to show you on this channel is I used to be in a punk band called the Pedophiles, and it was spelled wrong, but whatever, you know, I was 16, you know, we just like to fuck around, and we wrote like very untraditional punk kind of songs, you know. It was kind of like, say, I would compare it to Dead Kennedys without the political message. Now, we did write a couple of songs that had a political overtone over them, but most of it was just a bunch of random bullshit, you know. And but it was just very unorthodox, and people liked it, but we disbanded after like 3 months, starting it back in like January 1st, 2005 was when we started. And then we only did it for a few months and cut a little demo, and that's it. I used to be a pedophile.
Now, SomeBlackGuy was an avid supporter of Gamergate, but he was also a big supporter of Metalgate. And simply, Metalgate was a hashtag created in opposition to progressive journalists trying to get the metal genre to leave their conservative roots, attacking them for their conservative values. It was created in 2014 in the early days of Gamergate, and you know, it attracted the exact same supporters. Even the great Don Sargon himself would make a video on Metalgate. Imagine that.
And so we come to hashtag Metalgate, which is probably going to fulfill a similar function to hashtag Gamergate. I would recommend supporting these people even if you aren't a metalhead, because they are going to be victimized by their own press. They are going to be roundly attacked for creating the industry these social justice warriors are going to subvert. So in the words of one of my favorite YouTubers, Godspeed metalheads, God fucking speed.
Now, SomeBlackGuy's support for the movement wasn't a surprise. He supported Gamergate, and he righteously argued that artists shouldn't have to pander and cater to progressive values in their music.
And to some people, like the whole death metal and the lyrics about death and destruction and fucking murdering and slitting shit, it's not for everybody. Oh, I still enjoy the fuck out of it. I like both. I like it all. I like metal. I like the way it sounds. See, we all know that it's a fucking act, and that's what it really comes down to. It's just like with video games. We all know it's a fucking fantasy. So we don't have for it to be like, it needs to be more real and boring and shit like this. It's like, oh, metal needs to be more this and this. I'm like, no, fucking, it is what it is. People like it. It fucking works. Shut the fuck up. Leave it alone. I just...
However, his views attacking the band Pantera would seem to contradict his views on Metalgate.
So Rob, he's sick of that shit, and he's also sick of people kind of backing up Pantera and not really calling Phil out. Like, people have been very silent about, him being racist and shit like that, and just doing, like, saying whatever he wants, and there being no criticism, And I agree, like, I think that, that kind of stuff is bullshit. Like, we don't need any of that stuff.
SomeBlackGuy's video attacks the lead singer of Pantera, Phil Anselmo, for performing a Roman salute, saying white power, and rumours of racism. Although SomeBlackGuy doesn't outright call for censorship, he calls for the public condemnation of Phil Anselmo. And we all know what mass public condemnation of a public figure leads to. So SomeBlackGuy supports Gamergate, Metalgate, and every free speech movement in between, stating that artists should be able to express themselves without having to pander to progressive ideology. And yet, when someone is more extreme than him, he thinks everyone from the public has to come out and condemn them. This would create a backlash from his own audience, which SomeBlackGuy would then respond to in a video.
Some people said that this sounds like somewhat of a social justice rant, and that's not the case at all, especially for people that know me and people that have been following my channel for a while. They know that's clearly not the case. This is just a case of calling somebody out, because there's a lot of people that try to act like there's no problem with spouting a bunch of dumbass hate speech, or whether it's a joke or not, like say while you're performing in front of an audience or something like that, you're at your job. And that's what it really comes down to, because another thing people were saying a lot is, he can say whatever the hell he wants. He can say whatever he wants. And I 100% agree with that. You can say whatever the hell you want, but we all talk about consequences.
Now, this may all seem irrelevant. However, it's very important to understanding SomeBlackGuy's views. Free speech stops where his personal views stop. The hypocritical stance by SomeBlackGuy would continue to plague his entire career. And it's this very stance that would lead to the founding of Internet Bloodsports in 2017.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? So I wanted to take this opportunity to let you guys know that back in 2010, I used to have a pure political channel called Endless Waltz. And I got the name Endless Waltz from an anime called Gundam Wing, and it's a movie called Endless Waltz. They talk about the people war artists, it's an anime cycle, and also and so I was like, cool. So when the only time, that's what I named channel. Sometimes it happened with each channel, where I used that term a long time ago on my face, my name on my Facebook, and then I just go. So, but the main point that I just wanted to talk about this is like a lot of people ask me to make more political content. They ask me how come I don't talk about this stuff so much. Every once in a while I'll put something in, and when I do, I see a lot of comments of people saying like, you need to talk about more stuff like this, you need to this, and I'm like, I don't, because I just got burnt out on it. Like, that channel that I had back in the day really burnt me out, and mainly because it was doing well And the thing is, though, a lot of stuff, a lot of political stuff, like when you have a lot of knowledge and you start paying attention to a lot of stuff, when you start looking at news outlets that are not just American, when you look at, say, things that are in other countries, especially in the third world, independent journalists that are going to these other countries, like, say, a lot of third world countries that are being toppled, and you were seeing some really horrible stuff. I was seeing some really horrible shit. I was seeing some really fucked up stuff, to the point where I remember when I was watching some stuff around when Libya and Egypt were getting taken down, like, I was like sick to my stomach, like sometimes even like shedding little tears and stuff like that. Not to sound like a pussy, but you know, my empathy was really kicking in.
So, some black guy, he reveals he had a previous political channel named Endless Waltz. He says this channel was a success, despite only having 100 subscribers and 1 public video on it. He would later claim that all the videos have been privated. But if you private them all, why leave 1 public?
So next one I want to show you is the Endless Waltz TV, the one that I mentioned before, the political channel. Now I privatized all the videos, like I said, except for 1.
And even if this is true, that he privated all the videos, well, how successful can it be with 100 subscribers? Now this may seem a bit picky, and of course it is, but some black guy is using this previous channel to claim he has previous knowledge and experience in politics. Furthermore, he's using his previous channel to claim that he got burnout on it, and that's why people should expect delays in his political videos. You didn't get burnout on a channel with 100 subscribers, mate. Now, while I brush on his previous channels, let's talk about Abstract Legend and the Love Machine. Abstract Legend is simply a channel that features videos of some black guy playing guitar, you know, from way back. And Love Machine is also a channel that has his music in it, but more of the polished stuff. And oddly, it also has clips from movies and shows, including one titled The Hangover Eddie. This 1 minute and 31 second clip from the movie is Hangover, 480p resolution, and a beautiful 4:3 aspect ratio. And yet it has 377,473 views. That I've got it here. 95% of some black guys, hundreds of videos, have fewer views than this. All of my content has far fewer than this. And many popular YouTubers don't get these numbers. So let's all just take a second and remember a 480p minute clip of The Hangover from, 2010 gets more viewers than everyone's favorite YouTuber. So none of this shit matters. But it matters to me and you. And it should. But in the scheme of things, she kind of doesn't.
What are you doing, honey? None of it matters, I tell you. Hangover clips will always get more views than I. Please, you have to calm down. Maybe I'll find a better waifu in the afterlife. Oh no!
Now that you are aware of some black guy's introduction and identity on the internet as another mediocre free speech warrior, let's go through his highlights and lowlights running up to the forming of IBS in 2017. Some black guy uses Tumblr.
Okay, so I was just on Tumblr, you know, scrolling through my shit.
Some black guy doesn't use Tumblr.
I haven't been on Tumblr in a long time, and
some black guy created a promotional video embracing the term coon.
I and many others are called coon for simply disagreeing with other black folk, for liking death metal, for simply just being a little bit different than the average black person from whatever region they came from. So if those reasons alone make myself a coon, then I am proud to embrace it.
And millions of other black people around the world are proud to embrace it too.
Some black guy nominates himself as mayor of all black people.
I wanted to make this to address like Black Lives Matter and black people in general in the United States. I want to let you know that you are not oppressed. You have enough resources, you have enough opportunities in the United States to go wherever you want and to become whatever you want to be. And that's just the honest truth about it. There is nobody holding you back. There is no white supremacist system that's keeping you and holding you down.
Some black guy slows his video schedule to join the invasion of Europe.
So I just wanted to give you guys an update video on everything that I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks because I'm going to be insanely busy, so I might not be putting out that much content. And so what's going to happen in the next few days, and on Friday, I'm going to be going back to Cali. I'm going to be there for a couple of weeks, and then after that, I'm going to Europe. And a lot of you already knew that I was going, but things have changed to the point where normally I was just going to be vacationing there, and then I was going to come back, and then I was going to figure things out from there. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to stay over there. I'm going to be residing in Europe. I'm going to try to make everything work out, you know, the whole 9 yards, everything that I got to do.
Despite the delay, he still has time to shill his Patreon in the description of that video. He's too low IQ to secure a visa and becomes the first black man deported from Europe in 30 years.
So most of you know that I'm in Greece right now, and I was planning on staying like for as long as I could, and unfortunately I'm a moron and I didn't secure my visa. Some shit got fucked up, and I'm gonna have to leave next month in February. So I'm actually going to be back.
Also, he desperately asks the audience if he can come stay in their house, which isn't embarrassing at all.
One of the main reasons why I'm making this video is because I haven't 100% secured a spot to live in. So I'm going to be in the SoCal area, you know, either Orange County or LA County, whatever. But I have some candidates, but I was also want to just reach out and see like, hey, if anybody has some like spare rooms or some shit like that, since I'm only going to be living here temporarily. So I just need, you know, a room to stay in, and, you know, where I can just do and work, you know, just have my little studio equipment. And that's pretty much it.
In a completely surprising event of black on black crime, some black guy gets punched in the face and runs away. In future, he decides to only fight young British girls on the internet.
I got fucking attacked. I almost got fucking punked. I almost got punked. Like just a little while ago. Well, it was about a half hour ago. I just pulled up to where I'm staying at. I just went fucking grocery shopping. I bought some fucking some yogurt and stuff because I was like, all right, I need to start eating healthy because I've been eating like shit. And basically, I have like, you know, just my yogurt packets and stuff and some clothes in my hand, and all of a sudden this dude comes up to me, this fucking thug comes up to me across the street, and he's all like, hey yo, can I use your phone? And me, I mean, this guy looks sketchy as fuck, so I'm like, nah man, my phone's dead. And I was hoping that like, okay, please don't let my notifications go off. And then he's like reaching in his pocket, like he's looking like he was maybe gonna like pull out something. I don't know if he was gonna pull like a weapon, but it looked like he was probably gonna pull out like maybe some money. He looked like he was gonna like try to offer me something. All of a sudden, he takes a low road and decides to fucking punch me in the chin. And luckily, it didn't do anything to me. It just kind of like just surprised the fuck out of me. And at that point, I wasn't sure, like, you know, if he actually may have had something or not. But then, you know, obviously thinking of it in hindsight, he probably would have done something. He probably would have used something. He probably would have pulled something on me if he did have something. And so, but my initial reaction, since where I'm staying at is just a little bit down the ways, you know, it's not that far away. So basically, I just booked it. And the worst thing though is I was holding some fucking yogurt. I was holding some yogurt because I just went to Walmart and fucking I pretty much like destroyed all of them. I don't know if it initially happened from the shock when I got hit or from when I was running, but I fucking took off like quick. And there was a guy outside by one of the telephone poles. And pretty much, I think he got a little spooked, so then I just went upstairs to the apartment and let the people know that I'm staying with, like, what happened. And basically, that's kind of what went down. And for the first time in my fucking life, I called the police. I called 911, never done that before. And I also filed the report. I know maybe I have a strong chin because, you know, even the last time I got into a fight, which was back in 2009, I got jumped by 3 people and they tried to, like, whip my ass, and I held my own. So I just think that maybe my chin's alright. That's pretty good. It's a little sore right now, like fucking a little sore.
Some black guy is a midget. No, seriously. Some black guy celebrates his birthday on stream with a bunch of guys he barely knows.
What's up, anyone? Probably the 2 people that are watching. I'm just gonna be streaming for my birthday. Whoever can guess my age correctly can, I'll send you a ticket and we will have some sex. So
Nice. 20
I know
seconds.
it. No.
I know it. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me keep going though. So obviously I have the Worskies, Andy and Chris, and then I have these guys from Poisoning the World, Sofane and Fat Pat. And so thanks guys for joining me. This is you guys are fucking awesome. So I'm glad you
Happy
guys
birthday!
Yeah, happy birthday, man.
Yeah.
Oh, he has a birthday hat and everything. Damn.
Hey,
Yeah.
appreciate you guys. Appreciate you.
Some black guy shills progressive ego Lacey Green and says they've been talking in private.
It all started when there was a fringe element entered into the system, which is Lacey Green talking about has she possibly been red-pilled, and she's saying that she wants to talk to anti-feminists and start a dialogue and start to challenge her beliefs. And there was people like me that, you know, said I respect that and I'm excited to see if anything comes from it. And then there was people that were just like really pissed off and saying people aren't being skeptical enough. And I found that really interesting because I didn't really see like what is there to be very skeptical about. You can be skeptical about her intentions, but I'm one of the people that if somebody's willing to do something good, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And some people are saying, well, look, given her track record, is this going to be a good thing? Is she just trying to do this for money or XYZ? I don't know. All I know is that when something happens, we'll see how things go, and from there we can make an actual and rational judgment. And that's how I'm trying to play things out. But a lot of people are just trying to start some shit, just trying to rock the boat because they're very disappointed in the community because this is not what the community is about apparently or something. And I find that really strange, and it's something that I'm like, I don't know. What I thought we were doing, what a lot of people were doing, especially in the skeptic community, that they wanted to sway people or they wanted to build bridges. At least that's what I'm trying to do as far as anything where, like just as far back when I started talking about anything like this, it was because of Gamergate, and the main thing I want to do was just talk about it, spread awareness, and hopefully we can get back to playing some fucking video games. And I even spoke to Lacey Green about that, saying that I hope this starts a trend of building bridges because that would be the best case scenario, and she agrees.
This includes a boring analysis of the Skeptic and Thunderfoot drama surrounding streams relating to the skeptic feminist, the YouTube murderer, otherwise known as the Russian Deadpool.
Now, one of the weirdest things that has been happening is the whole Sargon versus Thunderfoot thing, and you guys know what happened. It all started because of the skeptic feminists murdered someone, and there was a stream about it with V, Crowd and T. Sargon was in it, and a lot of them were cracking some jokes. Sargon was there just laughing, you know, just kind of having a good time in the stream. They're just, you know, dark humor and stuff. And a lot of people were pissed off about that because it just happened, and, you know, even though they were laughing at the skeptic feminists' you know, Russian Deadpool's expense, it was still distasteful, and I understand why a lot of people were angry. And I feel like Thunderfoot, he took this opportunity to really leave the skeptic community.
The only thing interesting about this is how he shows a willingness to build bridges with progressives. Something that he would not do with people further ideologically right than him.
So if someone's willing to change and they're willing to exchange ideas and to hear people out now, I think that's a great thing. It doesn't matter what side you're on. If you're willing to just hear the opposition and understand stuff and try to grow and understand things better, that is the best case scenario, and I think that should absolutely be encouraged.
Some black guy would meet the infamous blogger Maddox and feature on his podcast in March 2017.
Please welcome to the show our guest this week, Some Black Guy. Some Black Guy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, mate. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's exactly what I thought he would sound like.
Yeah, you have thrown everybody off. Now, Some Black Guy, that is your YouTube channel. That is the moniker you go by.
Yes.
Right, okay. So that's what we're going to call you the rest of the show.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, we invited, you know, Abraham.
Not a black guy.
Just some random black guy on the street. Hey, you. We need somebody to fill.
Or it's not like he has a name and we decided to call him Some Black Guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was months before Maddox's legal attempt at burning the Constitution. So we can give Some Black Guy the benefit of the doubt that he didn't know he was working with an Armenian supervillain. Some Black Guy had drama with everybody's favourite black political commentator, Tariq Nasheed. Now Mr. Nasheed is humbly going about his business, explaining that the OK hand sign is a racist white supremacist symbol. Now Some Black Guy spoils all the fun, and he tells Tariq Nasheed that it was artificially created by trolls to get progressives to complain about nothing.
Basically, he was posting on Twitter, and then I responded to it with a little video of my own. So I was having a pretty good day today, you know, and then I checked my Twitter feed and I started seeing that piece of human garbage, Tariq Nasheed, popping up all over my news feed. And I'm just like, anytime I see this guy, it's always about him exploiting ignorant people of color, just saying that XYZ is a white supremacist. That's all it is. And what is it this time? It's something that I thought we were past a long time ago. People are bitching about the OK symbol and saying it's a symbol of white supremacy, it's a symbol of the alt-right. You know, there's shit already talked about this before, we all laughed about it, and then people use it, you know, just being like, oh, white power and shit. Like, fuck you, man. Everybody uses this shit. You can see Obama, everybody using this shit. But now it's being brought up again because news outlets like The Independent, I saw Yahoo, they're all talking about this. They're all talking about Mike Chernovich and companies saying that, oh, look it, and here comes Tariq Nasheed to the rescue to say that, look at all these motherfuckers are white supremacists. Look at the OK symbol. Look at this motherfucker, dude. Like he's like, oh, look at Milo Yiannopoulos and shit, and he's like, just, this is the new gang sign for white supremacists. They thought they were clever by announcing this hand sign as a hoax in advance. And I'm just like, really, bruh? Like, really, like, this in advance? And is this how you're trying to spin it? Trying to say that, oh, they'll denounce it, and then it's true or some shit because reasons. And that's not it. Like, he just kept going, you know? He had to keep going. Like, here's another group of white supremacists called the Proud Boys throwing up the white nationalist gang sign. Ooh, spooky. And then, oh, here's the worst one, bruh. Here's the worst one. Here's the white supremacist leader, Richard Spencer, and one of his alt-right members throwing up the white power gang sign. Dude, seriously, Tariq, you're a piece of shit, man. You're either so fucking stupid, or you just know that people are gonna freak out, and then you're gonna take the opportunity to spook people even more, man. You're worse than fucking conspiratorial bullshit motherfuckers like Alex Jones or whatever, dude. You literally are just preying on people's fear 100% and calling everybody a fucking racist. Even people, I heard you saying people were Hispanics, some Cuban motherfuckers were Hispanic white supremacists, man. You are a fucking piece of shit, man. I don't know how the fuck you have a platform. It does not make any sense to me, man. Fuck you. Just suck a dick.
They have a nice back and forth, calling each other scammers, and Mr. Nasheed eventually rejects SomeBlackGuy's offer for a debate.
Tariq responded to me, and that's where all the hilarity ensued, and that's where I started to understand him a little bit more, thinking that, like, I don't know, is this guy a complete imbecile or is he a troll? But I'm starting to lean more on the troll side, and so I'm gonna read the conversation that we had. So he first responds to my tweet by saying, I love this guy, I respect his hustle, get money. Right back at you, I'm impressed at how many people you've convinced to drink your Kool-Aid. I love brothers like you that pretend to go along with the white supremacists and their rhetoric, and then open up a Patreon page so they can pay you. I love what you're doing. I want you to continue scamming those idiots. I always encourage black people to get in on that scam. Tell me this, why do you live in a country that you claim to be full of white supremacists? Would love to interview you sometime. This is real talk though, to Tariq, like, why would you live here? Why would you continue to live in the United States? And I know you still live here because your location stamps on Twitter suggest that you're actually very close to me. You're probably only like 10 miles away from me, maybe even less. And you live in smack dab in a place where there's just white supremacy just rampant. But he continues. I don't want to be interviewed by you because I do not waste time watching you perform your routine for white supremacists you are scamming. Yet you'll go on Fox News and talk to people like Richard Spencer? You're incredible. Whatever though, keep telling POCs they're oppressed and I'll keep telling them they have all the tools to be successful. You said a couple other things after that, but I was just uninterested because obviously the conversation wasn't really going anywhere. He just kept saying the same type of snarky shit with a lot of winks and scam this, scam that, and I'm just like, come on, dude.
Once again, SomeBlackGuy shows a willingness to debate people more progressive than him.
This doesn't even have to be a debate. I just want to just understand, like, if he's truly just into this fucking deep end bullshit or if he's trying to just get some extra cash. I mean, I think it's the latter, but I can't be 100% sure.
SomeBlackGuy praises the intelligence of so-called white identitarians. This may mean that his fear to debate people further ideologically right than him may be based on intelligence and not a moral or ethical issue.
What disappoints me the most about Tariq and his followers is that they can't really back up their bullshit well. You know, you see people like Nathan D'Amigo or Richard Spencer, like these people on the alt-right, and they're all into their fucking white identity and all that shit. They have all of this knowledge in the forefront, and they'll just fucking just regurgitate it onto you, and then they'll seem very intelligent. Meanwhile, all these people on the black supremacist side are just talking a lot of shit. Their dissent is weak.
This drama would lead to a 3-hour circle jerk on a stream titled Tariq Nasheed vs My YouTube Family. It would feature SomeBlackGuy's closest comrades in the skeptical community. This includes Bunty King the Cuck.
I'm a cuck. I'm a fucking cuck, guys.
Andy Warski the Cokehead.
Hey, Dio. You seem pretty upset. Go back to the dilation station. Chill out a little.
Go get your dilation on, bitch. Go get your dilation on, bitch.
and Kraut the Castrated.
I disagree with you on that. He's not in power. He's a joke. Fucking look at him. Look at what we are doing right now here. This stream is going to have more views than he will ever fucking have for a single one of his fucking videos. He's not in power. He craves power, and he has his little circle jerk of 50 little shits that he commands around. But other than that, he has fucking nothing. He's a joke. He is a joke.
He would complain that Mr. Nasheed had called him a promoter of white supremacist beliefs, a label that some black guy would use to disregard his own enemies.
You guys know him. Everything is white supremacist. Everyone's a suspected white supremacist. Doesn't matter what color you are. It does not matter. You are a Hispanic white supremacist if you're Hispanic. It doesn't matter.
5 days later, Mr. Nasheed would call VidCon 2017 an event for white supremacist nerds.
But they had this little thing, this convention. And I noticed a lot of the suspected white supremacist YouTube trolls were there, and some of their coon minions.
In response, Bunty King would start the hashtag #ShutUpTariq on Twitter, and this would go trending with the help of SomeBlackGuy and other figures in their community.
Shut up, Tariq.
Shut up, Tariq. That's all you say. Shut up, Tariq. Shut up, Tariq.
Shut up, Tariq.
Hey, shut up, Tariq. Shut up, Tariq. Shut the fuck up, Tariq.
Shut up, Tariq.
Shut up, Tariq. Shut up, Tariq. Shut up, Tariq. Shut up, Tariq.
Shut up, Tariq.
Shut up, Tariq.
Hi, Tariq.
Fuck you, Tariq. Cool Cat loves you, but also shut the fuck up. Tariq, you can shut the fuck up.
It's trending. A house full of YouTubers got hashtag #ShutUpTariq to trend in 5 minutes. God bless VidCon.
He's just a massive troll, and we just took the piss out of him. We started hashtag #ShutUpTariq, or Bunty specifically started it, and it took off. It actually trended on Twitter, and we could not be more happy and excited. Like, this guy's dumb-ass bullshit has brought us together so much more. It made the night so much more enjoyable.
SomeBlackGuy admits, and I quote, VidCon was probably the best experience I've ever had in my life. Imagine.
So many good things happened, so much just wonderful stuff went on, and I could not be more happy with the results of VidCon. Like, genuinely, it was probably the best experience I've ever had in my life.
The most special part of this drama was Tariq Nasheed calling SomeBlackGuy an emo negro, and the subsequent artwork that was created to capture this moment.
It's like heavy metal. Yeah, he's like an emo Negro. Yeah, he's like one of them emo Negroes. But yeah, he's one of them. You know what I'm saying? If you see a nigga with them big fucking holes in his ear, you already know. And that bitch nigga, what he does, I think he puts dicks in those gauges, and then he does his head like this so the dicks can flap him in the face with his bitch ass.
SomeBlackGuy makes a video with Plain Jane Kasara Vera, essentially going over the exact same drama for 13 minutes to get that double ad revenue. They made a few subpar videos together, all conveniently over 10 minutes long. This also conveniently means that they can have double the amount of ads in their videos. Looking over SomeBlackGuy's channel today, nearly all of his videos follow this exact same formula. And the formula is simple. Take the topic of the day, stretch it over 10 minutes, because why would you do it any longer? Cite some different news sources and chuck in your own opinion over the top of it, and then jam in as many ads as you can. The only exception to this rule being his music uploads.
I was just like, I gotta figure out where I gotta live. Luckily, some people that watch me actually offered for me to live with them in Vegas, and that's actually where I am now.
Leading to the founding of Internet Bloodsports, a right-leaning political community of streamers and video creators had already formed. The community would commonly be referred to as the Skeptics. However, anti-SJW, alt-light, or the earlier definitions of the alt-right were also used to refer to this group. And prior to June 2017, there were little to no hostilities between different parties within this community. In March 2017, SomeBlackGuy would feature on the rapidly growing Warski Live show, and this would be hosted on the Andy Warski YouTube channel. His first appearance on the show would feature other guests, including Poisoning the World, Jeff Holiday, Failure, and the hosts Chris and Andy Warski. He did a solo guest appearance on the show 2 months later. Both shows are exactly what you expect they would be. A bunch of welfare recipients spending hours nodding their heads in agreement that progressivism is bad.
Yeah, like, oh, then there needs to be, a safe space for black people. And I'm like, this is fucking literal segregation. The shit that they fought against fucking 60 years ago. Like,
and not only that, this time you have to apply to be segregated. It's not like you're forced to. You're applying for the water fountain, pretty much.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's getting to those levels to a certain, like, they're gonna be like, okay, I want my separate bathrooms now. I want the separate water fountains. I want separate fucking like cafeteria food, like separate restaurants and shit. And I'm like, dude, what is this?
Warski Live would host British YouTuber Rage After Storm around a week after SomeBlackGuy's second appearance on the show. In this appearance on Warski Live, Rage After Storm would state that Tara McCarthy was her favourite YouTuber and a big inspiration.
Oh goodness me! I'm a huge fan actually of Tara McCarthy.
Okay, yeah.
I very much like her. Obviously, you got the Paul Joseph Fox in there, but I really do like Tara McCarthy because she mentions she talks a lot about the philosophy behind things and the actual psychology behind things, which I find extremely interesting. She was a big inspiration for me. She interviewed me recently. I'm not sure if the video is out yet, but no, extremely intelligent. I can't even fathom it. It's amazing. So I really do recommend subscribing to her. She's great. I really do like
definitely.
Her.
Now this would be a sign of things to come, as Tara McCarthy was already promoting race realist talking points and had her own minor dramas with the skeptic community. The interview Rage After Storm refers to in her Warski appearance would be released in May 2017. Rage After Storm would feature on the podcast Virtue of the West, hosted by Brittany Pettibone and Tara McCarthy. Brittany Pettibone is now known as Brittany Selner for reference. This podcast would mainly focus on anti-progressive ideas and their histories online.
I think we have a lot of timestamps going on this year. I mean, we had Trump's election, and then also before that we had the whole Brexit thing happening. We had the French elections, which sadly didn't turn out as a lot of us had wanted to. We have the German elections that are coming up September 24th, I think. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. But all of these things, they cause the left, during these days, they cause the left to just go mental.
When finally discussed, Tara McCarthy would go on a long tangent about anti-white racism. She would also discuss how racial genetics are a dominant factor in determining societal outcomes. Brittany Pettibone and Rage After Storm would show no pushback and essentially agree with these statements.
Well, my view is that it's primarily genetic, the differences. And I know that is the most controversial view you can hold on this topic, but that appears to be the most likely explanation from the research I've done. And
Well, I was in the UK, it's the same as in the US, you deal with everyone by like,
well,
do you deal with all this year?
Well, yeah, London, and I'm actually right now. And I was in school, I was in a very young school, and I just remember having lots of things about demographics, about demographics, about London, and I just remember the teacher really stating, white people are sitting on this stuff, and I was like, that's not right, so it's about everything, that's the people actually. It's a bit of a prediction of what people about, So obviously, when I went traveling, I did quite a lot of traveling. I went backpacking around the world for about 3 years, and it gradually dawned on me that differences do exist, and that perhaps these developing countries, perhaps we haven't heard the full story of the biological reasons behind these countries not doing so well, rather than this sociological kind of theory of how white people are just oppressing the entire world,
That's the thing, yeah, and that's still very dominant in the US. Like, white people, especially straight white men, are just the ultimate villain. But, then again, people always have to demonize someone, and that's who they chose.
Rage After Storm had also published a video on April 29th titled Bill Nye the Jewish Guy. Now, apart from the title, she doesn't really go into anything Jewish related, and eventually says that she calls him Jewish because of his large nose. This video remained relatively unnoticed by other commentators, and she received little criticism for it. It does, however, act as an indicator that she was beginning to include alt-right talking points in her videos.
Look, I know that so many people are starting to catch this SJW virus, but I never knew that it would be my dearest Bill. I respected him so much. No, really, he was my muse.
SomeBlackGuy would go on to interview liberal prophet and drug addict Jordan B. Peterson in April of 2017. They would essentially cover the exact same topics that every alt-right figure and skeptic cover. Progressivism equals bad. Feminism equals bad. Whatever.
There's quite a few people that, and I'm like, where are you getting this thought process from where I'm like a traitor or I'm a coon if I'm not exactly like you, if I'm not like, say, you know, the stereotypical BET black guy that's just only like exclusively into hip hop. You know, I love listening to hip hop, but you know, I actually like metal a lot more. And because of that thing, it's like, oh, you're whitewashed or you're this, and I'm like, why? Like, why are we?
It seems particularly dopey.
Around this time, the conservative YouTuber Tree of Logic would host SomeBlackGuy on a show, showing they have a positive relationship. She would also host Rage After Storm on a show around this time, also showing they have a positive relationship. Now, SomeBlackGuy and Rage After Storm were also extremely friendly at this time. Rage After Storm recorded a disclaimer for SomeBlackGuy's podcast in June 2017.
Warning. This podcast contains vile humor and a plethora of profanity. If you are easily offended, kindly fuck off.
First thing I want to mention is the disclaimer that you heard in the beginning is from a good friend of mine. She has a YouTube channel named Rage After Storm. It's one word. She's a pretty awesome YouTuber, very up and coming. You know, she's been getting subscribers like crazy. She is stunningly beautiful. She is a sight for sore eyes. Very, very well spoken. She sounds fucking amazing. Very good British accent or whatever. I'm just playing her up for all you guys, but stay away from her. She's mine. I'm just kidding. She's not mine. But
wow, late claim already, huh?
Right. No, she's not mine. But I will be honest though. I saw an old picture of her, and she was wearing an N7 patch, and a lot of people know how fucking crazy I am about Mass Effect. I really, really enjoy that franchise. So that was like, man.
That's the icing on the cake, huh?
Dude, like, you have no fucking idea. But yeah, so I just want to give a big shout out to her. I appreciate that. That's going to run before every episode.
Now, less than a week later, SomeBlackGuy comments fantastic to a charcoal portrait made by a fan of Rage After Storm. Now, interestingly, SomeBlackGuy wasn't tagged in this post, meaning he had to intentionally go out of his way to reply. Now, this would indicate that SomeBlackGuy may have been looking for something more than friendship with Rage After Storm. Now, it's important to note this, because the two would eventually get into a quarrel that seemed more aggressive than just a friendly debate between online friends. Now, supporting this claim is SomeBlackGuy's promotion of race mixing, even before he was a public figure. In 2012, SomeBlackGuy would post to his Instagram endorsing the act. And apart from music and his one shitty political video, he wasn't really a public figure at this time. In 2017, SomeBlackGuy and Casara Vera would release a video clickbaiting their potential relationship, but they never actually answered.
So Hey Drew says,
right here, a clip of Drew asking us if we're fucking or what was supposed to play.
Unfortunately, I didn't save the clip in time, and when I went to go get it, he had deleted it or something happened. It's just not there anymore. However, there are plenty of people that asked essentially the same thing. They're asking for dating or whatnot, so all of these people are going to represent Drew.
That is a very fair question, Drew. I know a lot of people have been wondering about stuff. Are we dating or whatever and all that kind of stuff. You want to take this one?
Yeah, so Derek and I are. Rebecca Hamontar1 asks, what are your favorite bands?
A year later, in 2018, SomeBlackGuy and Victoria Rave would release a similar style clickbait video. Victoria Rave uploaded a video titled, "Am I dating some black guy?" She references this question in the introduction.
Are we dating?
Are we dating?
Then doesn't mention it again until the last 30 seconds in a 12-minute long video.
Are him and I together? Are we dating?
Are we dating?
No. I think he thought that we were for like half a year.
Wait, what?
He hasn't slept with anybody else.
Wait, we're not dating. Jeez, fucking Christ, I'm out here, dude. What the fuck is this shit? What is this bullshit, man? I'm out here.
Featuring an effeminate black man that denigrates his own racial pride by liking heavy metal, and a herpes-riddled white woman that has scarred and maimed her own body in the name of progress and fame. This video is probably the greatest poster child for liberalism ever conceived. In 2017, SomeBlackGuy releases a video addressing his thoughts on interracial relationships, and initially does the old "I don't see race" shtick. He says that every woman he's dated publicly being of European ethnicity is just a coincidence, and that he's dated black women in the past, and he unironically says he has a fetish for Asian women because he likes anime, despite never having dated an Asian.
So first and foremost, I don't date based on ethnicity. I've never really cared about that thing. Of course, I do have a preference, like say, if I had my absolute way, if it's like, hey, Derek, you can just completely have exactly what you want, it would probably be some type of Asian, you know, maybe preferably Japanese, because I just, you know, as a little kid, I was really obsessed with Japanese culture. Not super obsessed with anime, I'm not like a crazy weeb, but I do have a little bit of weeb in me. But yeah, just, you know, I see a lot of Asian women, especially, you guys know, especially if you follow me on Twitter, you saw me when I signed up for my new gym, and then I ended up working out next to this really thick powerlifting Asian when I was just like, yes. I say I prefer Asians, and yet I've never dated one, so there's that too.
The most interesting part of this video is SomeBlackGuy says he grew up in La Habra, California, which is predominantly dominated by Hispanics and whites.
Now the other thing to factor in is that I'm a product of my environment. So I grew up in a city that's called La Habra, and it's very small, and it's just dominated by Hispanics. Like pretty much a lot of people immigrated from Mexico, and you know, it's La Habra. A lot of people call it Guadalajara, you know, because yeah, I think you get it. So I was one of the very few black people that were in that area. Like there was almost no black people at all. As a matter of fact, when I graduated high school, I think there was only 3 other black people in that school. Me, Sam, and I can't even remember what the girl's name is. There might have been another one. There's probably another one that I'm just forgetting, but that's how like less. There wasn't very many black people in there. And so there wasn't like say a choice for like say the odds of me dating a black woman in my area were slim to none. And it didn't really matter to me. I never really thought about that.
Now growing up in an area with less than 2% blacks does explain why SomeBlackGuy is into heavy metal. Now this seems to solve the whole nature versus nurture debate in reference to music. However, it's not so conclusive in relation to IQ. Anyway, 6 years of being a public figure, and SomeBlackGuy still hasn't dated within his race. So I would take his claims with a grain of salt, but I'll leave it up to you.
Turns out I'm all good, like, well, not completely all good, but it is that my heart's healthy, but I just have a little bit of problems with the valve. And what it is exactly I have is called mitral valve prolapse, or MVP for short. And what that is exactly is just my mitral valve. It's just irregular. It's acting up, like it's not closing simultaneously. So it's causing me to trip out and everything.
Now, SomeBlackGuy tells us he suffers from mitral valve prolapse, meaning he literally has a fragile heart. It may be this physical retardation that stops SomeBlackGuy from ever truly finding love. And it may be this very disability that caused him to lash out at Rage After Storm. Now we've set the scene, it's time to discuss Rage After Storm and her lighting of the fuse. Due to video and social media removal, it's kinda hard to track Rage After Storm's history online. She had a political YouTube channel with over 93,000 subscribers, and she broadly aligned with conservative views of SomeBlackGuy and other skeptics. She claimed to previously be a progressive that had converted, but there's little evidence of this.
There's nothing more a lot of people want in that age than to be liked. So obviously they will apply those views to them. They will lie to themselves. That is exactly what I did. I know how it works because growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends. I was one of those weird kids at school, you know. And you know, when I became a teenager, you know, when I realized, okay, I'm not extremely bad looking, maybe I can try this for myself. So I started adopting these views. I started sharing shit on Tumblr like, oh, feminism is great, you know, all that crap.
She was relatively friendly with everyone in the online right-leaning political community, until she created a single video that created a huge divide and forced sides to be taken. Rage After Storm uploaded the video Race is Real to her YouTube channel at the end of June 2017. She opens the video by asking her mother to wash her Wehrmacht, or Nazi uniform.
Mama, hast du schon meine Wehrmacht-Uniform gewaschen? Ich wasche doch mal helle Wäsche. Ah, scheiße. Kannst du nicht eine extra Wäsche für mich reintun? Nur diesmal, ich brauch's echt.
Oh, okay. Nur einmal. Diesmal.
Oh, danke, Mama.
Sag mal, läuft deine Kamera?
Oh, scheiße.
Yeah, I think we can see where this is going. She then plays Nazi wave clips in her introduction, calls the current education on race a lie.
Racism, it's an interesting lexeme. I remember being first taught about it when I was a wee little kid, and we were talking about the slave trade, you know, in Africa and all that other shit. So at the time, I only saw racism as a thing that white people did to black people. Despite the fact that I as a kid was racially profiled for being German, for example, I got called a Nazi on the playground, etc., I never actually assumed that that was a case of racism. I just thought, heck, that's just people being assholes, right? Which leads me to think, despite having known what racism was, I still wasn't able to put A and B together.
Says the definition of racist has become useless.
Which then gives me another question to whether or not the term racism actually properly exists. Racism is a made-up word. Well, heck, every word is a made-up word. We use words to explain new things that we describe to often make our lives a heck of a lot easier. And then we use those words to accuse people of things to help our own selfish narrative of getting our point across.
Blames the slave trade on African slavers.
But what we weren't told as wee little youngsters is that Africans were enslaving, killing and raping people long before the white man arrived. Despite the aggression probably increasing due to slavery, the white man still did a lot of good things for Africa. Fun story. During the Atlantic slave trade, Europeans could not penetrate into Africa for very long or very far due to the threat of malaria and other tropical diseases. The sailing ships were on a timetable to catch the best winds for the year. They would buy their slaves from blacks on offshore islands. Then they took off before the hurricane season. Blacks were completely complicit in the slave trade and actually benefited from it. For the Americans and Europeans' involvement in it, the slave trade would have not occurred without the black people's permission, including their involvement and approval. Besides, we do forget that it was whites who largely ended slavery. Another fun fact, Arab slave traders had actually enslaved more people than the European slave traders did. Blacks had rounded up one another and sold each other to the Arab slave traders too. Not to mention, us Europeans were also enslaved by the Arabs. Where's our affirmative action? Oh right, white people are fucking terrible, I forgot. Even though it was the British Empire that first abolished the slave trade, losing a heck of a lot of money and lives in the process, but okay.
Discusses the decay of Africa since European colonial powers left.
When the European Empire stepped away from Africa, Africa practically went down the shitter. I mean, who did they elect in their first democratic election? Surely they must have elected someone who liberated the country and proved many rights for blacks. No. Zimbabweans managed to elect a genocidal cockbag, aka Robert Mugabe.
brings up that despite being only 13% of the population, African Americans cause 52% of the homicides in the US.
About 13% of Americans are black, according to the estimates from the US Census Bureau. And yes, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, black offenders committed 52% of homicides. This was in data recorded between 1980 and 2008. Only 45% of the offenders were white. In 2013, the FBI reported that 38% of murders were committed by blacks. However, only 31.1% were committed by whites. In 29.1% of cases, the perpetrator's race was unknown. Over 3 years of data from 2011 to 2013, 38.5% of people arrested for murder, robbery, manslaughter, rape, and aggravated assault were black. This is evidence from official police reports that blacks are more likely to commit crimes than white.
She then blames the disproportionate crime rate on Africans having a lower IQ on average in comparison to other races.
And why is this? Is it the unfair justice system? You guys like to say that, but it's not. In the book of IQ and the Wealth of Nations, it talks about the IQ of the average sub-Saharan African being at 80. The IQ of an African American is normally at 85. White populations in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Europe, South Africa, and the United States score really close to one another, being at around 100. The reason to why IQ is such an important factor is because a lower IQ causes many detrimental factors in society. These include poverty, dropping out of school, unemployment, divorce and lower rates of marriage, welfare dependency, a child's poor motor skills and development, and criminal behavior. So then, setting out these societal differences, which is backed by data, surely should be common sense, right? Think again, we are still expected to act as if these IQ differences do not exist at all, thus assuming that these societal problems occurring are not a genetic factor, but are blamed on white people as per usual.
She touches on genetics affecting other traits, including tribal mentality and poor verbal skills.
On average, densely populated black communities show a thirst for tribal mentality, as well as tribal warfare, because it is still white people to blame for a problem that is predominantly genetic. Whites have given many resources to help black communities in the West and even in Africa. However, black communities on average remain unsuccessful in full integrations in civilized communities. It might also be surprising that blacks have a higher self-esteem than whites on average. In one large study of 11 to 16-year-olds, blacks rated themselves as more attractive than did whites. Blacks also rated themselves higher in reading, social studies, and sciences, but funnily enough, not in mathematics. This inferiority complex leads to the whole "we was kangs and shit." Not to mention, a lot of African languages prove that black people lack abstract thinking. As I would like to mention, not all black people lack it. As I said, this is just an average. The English to Zulu language dictionary has only 250 pages. And like the other African Negro languages, it does not include a working definition of any abstract concepts, because technically it's not possible for them to think that way or those communities to have been thinking that way.
She closes the video by assuring the audience she is only talking about averages specifically, calls herself literally Hitler, and uses more Nazi clips in the outro.
So again, whenever I'm talking about this, it's really important to remember that I am talking about an average. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'm going to be going back to what I can do best, and that is being literally Hitler. And as always, keep memeing and dreaming.
All of this facts and logic would break some black guy's heart and cause him to lash out online. Despite everything that I've listed, the most controversial part of this video would be that a 2013 article titled "Alien Mind, Black People Have No Conception of European Morality," posted to the Daily Stormer, would be used as a source. Now, this article barely uses any references itself, and the ones that it does use are almost entirely just anecdotal events and evidence over any scientific research or data. The Daily Stormer is one of the most censored political websites in existence, and for years has been labelled a neo-Nazi website by mainstream media. The articles often combine both radical and satirical language, and are targeted towards a younger far-right audience. The claim of far-right definitely applies. However, the website seems more interested in posting memes of Hitler to create a controversy than actually posting memes of Hitler in support of him. You get the difference?
I don't have any desire to resurrect, Nazi regalia and go back to, National Socialism, we would talk about in a historical context. I don't have any desire to fly swastika flags and dress up in costumes and so on.
Yeah, but
maybe I have a desire to do that, but I wouldn't do it.
Okay, so you've got
Well,
the
but
design.
it's the same. No,
Same ideology. That's the thing, though, isn't it?
The term race realist or alt-right would be commonly used to refer to supporters of the Daily Stormer and Rage After Storm's claims. The alt-right had previously encompassed a broader umbrella of conservative figures, but had slowly shifted towards a more racial component after the 2016 presidential election. Political commentator and literal plantation owner Richard Spencer had led this transition by stating,
"Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!"
in front of an audience where some gave Roman salutes. This would cause many popular figures to drop the alt-right title entirely and instead adopt the more culturally diverse alt-light title. According to a video by Tree of Logic, Rage After Storm and the Skeptics spent the immediate day after her video was released arguing on Twitter.
Derek, aka SomeBlackGuy, was outraged when he saw Rage's video and bashed her on Twitter by calling her a racist. This prompted others within the skeptic community to join him, and they gathered together like a gang to attack her. I was confused by all of this because I could not understand why they were so furious with science and statistics. But then again, I realized there is nothing skeptical about the skeptic community.
I can't find any of the skeptics' posts or direct arguments, but I can find Tree of Logic and Rage After Storm's archives of them ambiguously attacking these criticisms.
Right-wing YouTubers need to stay out of the liberals community. We can be friends with liberal YouTubers, but don't join their groups. Here's the deal. You all who attacked Rage After Storm focused on her sources and not her arrangements in the video. You ganger on her. But when I came along with credible sources to defend her argument, you got scared. You know that I can back up her claims in her video. And that fact that I'm a black woman doing that made the butt hurt that much worse. So when a black woman disagrees with a black YouTuber, she's called a self-loathing Uncle Tom. That right there proves some points to be true.
Triggering the alt-light is so much more fun than triggering feminists. The skeptic community are so triggered over my recent videos. Take the red pill, god damn it, what are you? Interesting stuff coming here. Hypocritical maybe, we'll see.
I support and defend this video by Rage After Storm. And when I said the same thing, she said I was called a coon.
In response to Rage After Storm's video, Warski Live would host SomeBlackGuy, Kasara Vera, Crouten T, Jeff Holiday, and the two hosts Andy and Chris Warski. They invited Rage After Storm, but for some reason she declined being berated by 6 YouTubers with an average IQ so low you'd have to dig for it to find it. The stream is 2 hours of them crying, "My racism" and "my environmental factors," without heavily going into the data either way of the argument.
Right? There's, of course, that you take a black dude and you put him with like, a good a family with the parents intact, and they make a lot of money or decent amount of money. He'll grow up like that type of family.
If you don't believe that these characters were being disingenuous in their arguments, then let's have a look at how they dealt with the controversial Daily Stormer being used as a source.
Tell the people
the title. Okay.
Tell them where.
Alien Mind. Alien Mind. Black people have no conception of European morality.
And where did this article come from?
The Daily Stormer. But I think it is important to point out that if we're going to be, honest, intellectually honest, we shouldn't just dismiss it by saying, oh, this is just a Daily Stormer, fuck it. We should actually read it, go into it, and look what their claims are, and then see. I mean, I've already read it, it's bullshit, but if you got to be honest, you can't just say, oh, she's an Nazi because she quotes the Daily Stormer. You have to actually look.
It's not just enough to say that it was a poor source. Skeptics would feel the need to highlight the Wikipedia page for the Golden Rule that was used by the Daily Stormer to claim that Africans never developed said rule. Not being satisfied with an obvious win on failed sources, Crouten T would falsely claim that the Golden Rule Wikipedia article actually rejected race realism because it discusses various ethnicities and cultures developing said rule.
However, when you investigate African Negro psychology and history, you find that they had no knowledge of this law until white Europeans came and attempted to teach them of the benefits it would bring if they observed it. The thing about it is, its source, when you go to this article, its source is the Wikipedia article on the Golden Rule. You click on it, and the first thing you see is Golden Rule in Indian culture, Golden Rule in Hindu culture, Golden Rule in Arabic culture, Golden Rule in Islam, Golden Rule in China, Golden Rule in Taoism, Golden Rule all across the world, meaning essentially the Wikipedia article itself, what they use as a source, debunks their first claim.
However, this Wikipedia page doesn't mention Africa at all. Therefore, it's not debunking the Daily Stormer's claims, but rather a skeptic straw man of those claims. And hence, instead of claiming the easy win, the skeptics were building a house of lies to claim a false win. The most relevant and special moment is some black guy explaining how he truly felt betrayed by the racist British girl he once thought was his friend.
That's terrible. It's like, how could you read this and then think that? And that's what's troubling to me. That's what's troubling, you know, because, and just real quick, you know, before I found out about this stuff, and I had somewhat of suspicion because I was talking to Andy not too long ago saying that I caught like 10 minutes of a podcast she did. And she started talking about some stuff that was very like reminiscent to like race realism. And I was thought maybe she's just examining it, and I had to go. And I'm like, well, fuck it, whatever. And, you know, it just, yeah, this is full blown. And I don't know. I just found it so strange because, you know, I thought she was, you know, really chill person, very genuine. That's why a lot of people were very warm and inviting and had her on her had her, you know, she's been on multiple people's channels. I had her do a disclaimer for my podcast. I had one moment.
Andy Worski posts a Twitter video after this stream.
And this is for Rage in particular. We did the stream about Rage's new video on race realism. We really disagreed with what you said, and I invited you on. I wanted you to come on and defend yourself. And just understand that when we did the stream, we were as nice as possible. We didn't like roast you or bash you. We just debunked the articles that you used as sources. Crow and T did a lot of work on that. And I feel as if you criticize people like you do on your channel, and we do on our channel, that especially the people that you work with or your colleagues essentially, that if they disagree, you should be able to have a debate. You probably unfollowed everyone, and I don't understand why you did that, especially if your video and your channel itself is controversial. I think you should be able to sit down and chat with us. Again, I highly recommend to watch the stream. We debunked all your stuff and we didn't bash you as a person. And I do want to have a discussion. I don't think blocking everyone or unfollowing and all this stuff and just hiding yourself is good, because you criticize people. Wouldn't you want them to speak to you about the things that you disagree with?
I imagine this was in response to criticism from his audience, because he heavily emphasizes how nice he was to invite Rage After Storm to a dog pile of racist decrees.
You're just probably upset and emotional about this, and I don't think you should be, because the door was open, and I hope you could still come on the show and defend yourself. And this wasn't about hate. This is about us being disappointed with what you said, and we just debunked it, like what we do with everyone. And I don't think even our friends should be immune to criticism. That's all I have to say.
Some black guy would post a screenshot of Tree of Logic's Twitter post defending Rage After Storm. Interestingly, the coward doesn't directly tweet at Tree of Logic. A random Twitter user replies to some black guy calling Tree of Logic an Uncle Tom, and some black guy then replies in agreement. This would cause Tree of Logic to go absolutely Super Saiyan and initially take the lead in defense of Rage After Storm. Once again, I will be using Tree of Logic's video to show the Twitter interactions and cross-referencing them with archives to prove they existed. She challenges some black guy and Kraut to a debate against her and Rage After Storm. She then makes another post challenging him after being initially ignored.
Why are you ignoring my challenge, Derek? You threw the first punch by calling me a coon, but I will finish the fight.
Some Black Guy replies to Tree of Logic stating that Rage After Storm has already been offered a debate, referring to the 6v1 Warski livestream. Tree of Logic once again challenges Some Black Guy to a debate, this time with a video upload attached. This video, titled A Debate Challenge from a Coon to Some Black Guy, Derek, has since been removed and I cannot find an archive anywhere. Tree of Logic would then follow up with this post going on a Twitter tirade against Some Black Guy. Some Black Guy then uploads a video to Twitter stating that Tree of Logic is playing the sympathy card in reference to the Coon remark. He then lashes out at Tree of Logic for supporting Rage After Storm and strawmans the initial Race is Real video once again.
What's going on, Tree? So, first thing I want to address is I clearly didn't call you a coon and stuff like that, and you're reaching for sympathy points, and I do not appreciate that. I wasn't even the one that called you an Uncle Tom. I just played off of that shit as to take the piss because of how crazy the situation is. I shared that because I was so shocked that a strong black woman like yourself saw this video that claims that black people are genetically inferior and you saw nothing wrong with it. I'm not even sure if you saw her sources, if you checked them, if you read into them at all. I imagine you haven't, because that's the craziest shit to me. That this is basically discounting anything at all. Environmental differences, just cultural differences. Any reason that suggests like why black people are violent in heavily populated areas or their IQs are lower. It just boils it down, you know, in her video that it's just simply genetics, meaning that there's no point in even trying to fix anything. Black people are just fucked, they're just dumb, and that's just the way they are, you know. There's no point in trying to, you know, pump more money and trying to uplift, you know, the communities. There's no point in even trying to do anything. We're just fucking genetically inferior and white people are superior to us. That's what she said in the video. Her sources claim that as well. That's why it's fucking crazy that you're supporting this stuff. And as far as the debate goes, you know, we gave her a chance. We gave her plenty of chances. Maybe we can set something up later, but I have a very busy schedule now. We tried to get her in to defend her position, but on Twitter, she was just saying the entire time, saying, we're triggered, we're not red-pilled. Yeah, dude, I'm not red-pilled because I don't believe that black people are inferior. we're not genetically inferior. Like, I guess I'm not red-pilled because of that, you know? And, like, I'm sorry, but you can't take raw statistical data and apply it to, you know, your bias, your preconceived notions that black people are lesser than. You can't do that. That's not how data works. You can't take this, hey, I found this data, now I'm going to fucking push it on the narrative of the thing that I fucking believe. And that's what the Daily Stormer and a lot of her sources suggest. You know, like, you look at her sources, I please, if you genuinely read her sources and you believe all this stuff, I don't know what we could debate exactly, because all we're doing is debunking her sources.
The most important part of this video is that Some Black Guy again says that he's already offered Rage After Storm to debate, already debunked her sources, and he is too busy to debate in the immediate time frame, but may change his mind in future. Tree of Logic continues her barking on Twitter, once again attacking Some Black Guy for the Uncle Tom remark and not directly answering the calls to meet in the halls of debate. Some Black Guy changed his attitude and replied that he wasn't worried about debating because he had science on his side and that he'd talk to Kraut and T about it. Tree of Logic would affirm this response and then once again post about Some Black Guy's Uncle Tom remark. A couple hours go by, and during this time Some Black Guy and Kraut are both active on Twitter. So Tree of Logic once again tweets at Some Black Guy asking for a date to set up the debate. Another YouTuber known as Blonde in the Belly of the Beast, who had a mixed relationship with the skeptics, would retweet Some Black Guy affirming his agreement to debate. Some Black Guy would respond, telling her not to jump the gun as he hadn't talked to Kraut and T yet. Tree of Logic would then send out a Twitter post directly asking both Kraut and T and Some Black Guy to a debate. Kraut and T responds by stating that he needs some time to analyze the data, and Tree of Logic asks how long will he need. They have a little passive back and forth before directing the question of dates to Some Black Guy. Some Black Guy is active on Twitter for the next hour, so Tree of Logic begins posting multiple tweets targeting him. These primarily focus on her calling him a coward for avoiding her. Some Black Guy replies to Tree of Logic by stating that they've already debunked the claims, so he's not super eager to do it again. Tree of Logic instantly sees this as a confirmation of his cowardice, and Some Black Guy confirms this by now telling her a debate is not his priority. She then lands a series of napalm strikes attacking Some Black Guy and the skeptics, for forming an echo chamber.
So everyone who watched the Twitter exchange between Derek and I saw Derek accept the debate, bob and weave from committing to a date, delayed contacting Croyd, ignored my numerous tweets asking for him to set a date, only for him to back out of it because he feels that he and his circle jerk of friends debunked Rage's video inside his echo chamber. So his Twitter followers begged him to reconsider joining the debate. Remember, the debate that he wanted. There are 3 black YouTubers who didn't have a problem with Rage's video. Me, Anthony B. Logan, and That Guy T. That Guy T tweeted to Derek criticizing his unreasonable behavior. That's when Derek uploaded this video in response.
Hey man, so I don't know who you're referring to, just saying that, oh, it's being just dismissed because it's just sources from the Daily Stormer. Well, the thing is, like, say, we've gone through the sources, you know, they weren't dismissed. We went through them and we saw that the information was bullshit. It just simply is. Like, it discounts so many variables into why, say, black people in heavily populations are tribalistic or commit a lot of crime and whatnot, say, dismisses any cultural differences, any environmental differences, and it just has some raw data and says, oh, well, this proves that blacks are genetically inferior, even though it never made the connection. You know, looking at some of the sources, like when they talk about black people don't know the golden rule, they don't know how to follow it, they have no concept of time, they have no abstract thought. Looking at these sources, I'm like, wow, what the hell even is this shit? It has no basis. There was nothing to support that. And about the golden rule, if you look at their source where they got that information from, it's on Wikipedia, and on Wikipedia it talks about other cultures and races and their golden rule, where I'm like, well, how the fuck do all these other people have golden rules but only white people understand the concept of that? It's completely disingenuous, and that's why people bring up why it's on the Daily Stormer, because they're leaving out shit to paint a narrative that black people are inferior. That's why people are mentioning it. They're not just simply dismissing it. They're saying, well, of course this is the conclusion you're gonna come to by going on a white supremacist website, dude. I mean, it's like, say you're trying to support fucking chemtrails and you go to InfoWars to support that confirmation bias. It's as simple as that, man. You're still gonna look at the stuff on InfoWars, but then you're gonna come to the same conclusion that it's fucking bullshit when you do some actual some research and we look at unbiased sources, man. So that's what's happening. It's not, people aren't just dismissing this shit. Maybe some people are that are too lazy to look into it, but people that were genuinely concerned and don't like this type of narrative being pushed, you know, me myself don't like hearing that I'm genetically inferior and that, like, basically whatever, if I procreate, my fucking kid's gonna be genetically inferior and just gonna be prone to violence and shit like that, gonna be prone to all this tribalistic just wave, lack abstract thought, or whatever the fuck all those articles said. You know, it's really simple to debunk this stuff. It really is, and a lot of people already have done it or they're working on it. I mean, one of the fucking sources there was an archived post that was debunked over a decade ago. I mean, come on, dude.
Hello, everyone. Another skeptic, and possibly a reptile-wearing human skin known as Nate Talks to You, would then make a Twitter post calling Tree of Logic the child of Uncle Ruckus. Some black guy would like this Twitter reply. Uncle Ruckus is a Boondocks character most notable for his comical self-hatred against blacks and love of whites, essentially based on the Uncle Tom stereotype. Tree of Logic's video segment responding to Nate Talks to You would feature his blackface video.
This white racist liberal did a video titled, "Is Blackface Racist?" And he does it in blackface towards the end of the video. The skeptic community, along with Derek, saw the video and said nothing. But take a look at his likes to dislike ratio. He received 2,232 likes and only 280 dislikes.
She uses this to call the skeptic community hypocrites for having blackface lizard people in their ranks, while simultaneously attacking Rage After Storm as a racist for highlighting genetic differences.
So the skeptic community finds it racist when a white female makes a video about race realism based upon science and facts, but when one of their own does a video in blackface, they say nothing.
Tree of Logic then explains that the only reason the skeptics bombarded Rage After Storm was because she was an easy target.
Mind you, this video was uploaded this past March. That was 3 months ago, and they didn't attack him for being racist, but they attacked Rage. Why? Because she's a white female conservative.
Tree of Logic would directly tweet at Nate Talks to You.
So after finding out about this, I decided to confront Nate. Nate, I saw that you accused me of being a child of Uncle Ruckus. Why would you, as a white man, say that about me? Please explain. 8 hours later, I didn't hear back from him, even though he was active on his Twitter account shortly after receiving my tweet. So I got aggressive with him in order to make him justify his racist actions by saying this. Nate, so you called me a racial slur on SomeBlackGuy's Twitter, but run away like a scared ass bitch when I confront you about it? He says, I wasn't aware that the child of Uncle Ruckus was a racist slur. Is the character Uncle Ruckus a derogatory belittling character for black people or a positive uplifting character for black people? Based upon the comments I've seen from you, I imagine you like him. My Uncle Ruckus tweet was in response to a screenshot from you. So this tweet meant that I was this horrible, derogatory black person? Interesting. So I tweeted, so you think I'm an Uncle Tom who is a traitor to my race? And he says nothing. He runs away like a coward and refuses to respond back to me.
At this time, Rage After Storm posts one hidden treasure that many point to explain this broader conflict. Her claim reads, I didn't use the Daily Stormer for serious reasons. It was a sarcastic approach, and it did exactly what I hoped it would. Consider this is true. It means Rage After Storm intentionally put fuel on the fire by using controversial sources to support legitimate claims. If she had used more acceptable sources, the skeptics may not have responded so aggressively. Furthermore, Rage After Storm's source would directly tie the alt-right and Daily Stormer orbiters to the debate, meaning any attack on Rage After Storm's video would be an attack on them. In the meantime, Tree of Logic returns to her initial target and goes on another Twitter barrage against SomeBlackGuy.
So I had no other choice but to let it all out on Twitter. I called him names, I talked about his height, his sausage. I did everything I could to make him mad enough to accept this debate.
SomeBlackGuy then uploads another Twitter video confirming he will not be debating. He puts the blame on Rage After Storm because she has bad sources, unfollowed the skeptics and said they weren't red-pilled enough. He then attacks Tree of Logic for defending Rage After Storm and strawmans the arguments completely.
So let me tell you why I'm not going to debate with Tree of Logic and Rage After Storm. So Rage, a couple of days ago, when the shit hit the fan and everybody found out about her dog shit sources that she used, about her race realism video, she pretty much started unfollowing everybody when they started criticizing her and her sources. And basically, she was saying that we're all triggered, we're all acting like SJWs, we're not red-pilled, and she said she doesn't want to engage with children. So, I mean, that was that. And then somebody told me that Tree of Logic was defending the video, saying she completely supports it. And I thought that was absolutely insane because, she's kind of, her, myself, and other black people are proof that say there are parts in her video that are complete dog shit, and parts that suggest that black people lack abstract thinking, and they have no concept of Western morality, and that low IQ is just tied to genetics and nothing else, no variables in between. And I'm just like, wow, that's fucking insane.
He concludes with saying that people calling Tree of Logic Uncle Ruckus and Uncle Tom is funny, because she supports the same things they do. Then says Tree of Logic getting mad at the remarks is disingenuous, so he won't debate.
And then some people called her Uncle Tom and Uncle Ruckus, and I thought it was fucking funny because if you've seen Boondocks and Uncle Ruckus, some of the shit that's in that video are exactly some shit that he would say. And Tree, you keep lying and saying that I've been calling you a coon multiple times in the past couple of days. You've been taking those tweets and stuff and been trying to backtrack and still trying to paint yourself as a victim because a couple of people called you Uncle Tom, and you're just talking a lot of shit, saying I don't have balls and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is not how somebody acts that wants to debate. This is how a 13-year-old acts, and I'm not interested. I'm not interested in the drama. Maybe if you would have composed yourself differently, I would have been interested, but you already gave me a preview of how the debate would go. A lot of emotions, and we're not going to argue the point, so I'm not interested. If you want to believe sources from the Daily Stormer, from a neo-Nazi website, you go ahead and do it. I'm going to move on to bigger and better things. You have a good one.
Tree of Logic once again makes Twitter posts calling him a coward, and this time targets his low IQ. SomeBlackGuy places the blame on Tree of Logic's response again, and not directly confronting him. Tree of Logic reminds SomeBlackGuy that he was the first to post about her on Twitter. Tree of Logic then claims that she was racially attacked and threatened with physical violence by his audience. But honestly, who cares what some random Twitter user says?
After that, his Twitter followers began to harass me. They started calling me racial slurs and threatened me with physical violence. And none of the white YouTubers in the skeptic community called him out on it.
A black female YouTuber in the skeptic community, then known as Patty Politics, now known as Farmer Patty, would join in on the attack against Tree of Logic. The two would argue like two black women in a Denny's at 4 a.m.
Why don't you misrepresent me in your next video by saying that I refuse to watch a video suggested to me? I don't mind being the bad guy. Oh, and don't forget to mention how I'm a race traitor, Uncle Tom, house Negro, and daughter of Uncle Ruckus. Go full Tariq on my ass, LOL. Ooh, she got mad. She started cussing me out on Twitter and giving me indirect threats. She was very triggered. Don't you ever fucking bring me into your drama. This is your last and only warning. Goodbye. Heifer, you came to my Twitter to pick a fight with me, but I'm the one bringing you drama? So I said this. Oh, I just caught another threat from you. The first threat, you are pushing it. The second, this is your last and only warning. You threatened me twice.
Tree of Logic then makes the obvious analysis that the skeptics are only willing to debate people to the political left of them. To prove this wrong, SomeBlackGuy would stream with Casara Vera, once again repeating the entire drama and attacking Rage After Storm's video, while refusing to debate. The only unique part of this stream is that Casara Vera wears a hat that says Cuckboy on it. No, I am not joking.
And not just the fact that they're from the Daily Stormer, a neo-Nazi website. There's a tab on the website that says the Jew problem, like that website.
It's the fact that they were so easily debunked.
Yep.
Like within minutes,
Yeah.
Kraut was able to just tear them apart.
Some other anti-skeptic critics would make responses to the attacks on Rage After Storm and provide more substantial claims and sources. One specific character that would find his way out of the woodwork would be Chilean boomer and future international fugitive, Coach Red Pill. At the time, Coach Red Pill would have barely 2,000 subscribers. His content and views were primarily from a red-pilled men's rights activist position, but he often extended into other subjects. Coach Red Pill uploaded his first criticism of the skeptics in the video titled Rage After Storm was stupid, but not wrong. In his video, he would state that Rage After Storm was immature for using a poor source, but her claims aren't as extreme as the skeptics had made them out to be. He wouldn't outright support her claims, but rather focus on how the skeptics were able to break the weak link to distract from her actual arguments.
Rage After Storm and all those people over there, Stormfront, Richard Spencer, all those people, we're not a part of those people. We are on this side of the political divide, on the mainstream side of the political divide. That's what the skeptics are doing by ostracizing this poor girl. Did she say something stupid? Yeah. But the fact that they put a spotlight on it and dogpiled on her, it proves their agenda. They have an agenda. Everybody's got an agenda. If you think that people don't have an agenda, then you're going to be run over by other people who do have an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. The fault with Rage After Storm is that she didn't realize what her agenda was and she just went and said something true, but stupid. It is stupid to say the truth unless you know what you're going to get out of it. She went and said something true. And now?
He would provide an amusing description of Rage After Storm's appearance.
And she looks like an SJW. She's got like the nose ring, which I've never quite understand that fashion, but are we cows or people? She's got the horn rimmed glasses, the granny glasses kind of thing. All she needs is to dye her hair blue and she's all set to join Antifa at the riots, right? But of course, when she starts opening her mouth, she comes across as what she is, which is hard right authoritarian.
And incorrectly mix up the Daily Stormer with another far-right website known as Stormfront.
She went and cited Stormfront as her fucking source. Just fucking idiot.
His filming style would garner the name Coach Cam. Quite simply, he just used multiple cameras and cut the footage from different angles. But in a landscape where every YouTuber is either sitting in front of a green screen or a bookshelf or a Kekistani flag, he would be a revolutionary. Foolishly, Rage After Storm had deputy editor for Kipper Central in her Twitter bio and in her YouTube videos. Kipper Central is a blog associated with and supporting the United Kingdom Independent Party. The spiteful Croughton T would tweet at the Kipper Central Twitter account, encouraging them to look into and disassociate with Rage After Storm. I can't find the exact archive, and many have said that Kraut deleted this post within 20 minutes. However, enough commentators showed and discussed the post at the time to confirm it existed. The same applies to this post immediately after. It's of Croughton T acknowledging that he went too far, attempting to get Rage After Storm deplatformed. The same day, the Kipper Central Twitter account then states they are looking into one of their writers' recent videos, obviously referring to Rage After Storm. Croughton T had succeeded. The following day, Kipper Central makes a post that they have suspended Rage After Storm until she reforms her views. The larger issue for Rage After Storm was that her real name was connected to the author's page on the Kipper Central website. Croughton T had not only gotten her suspended, but he brought mass attention to her real identity. Now, I won't call this doxing, because it was at her peril to have her name even loosely connected to her public profile. But it was definitely a malicious attack by the sour golem known as Croughton T to go after her personal life to silence her political views. Rage After Storm's video Race is Real was flagged down within a few days. It's impossible to say who caused this directly, but either way, it was another dirty tactic that had been introduced into this war. This would of course infuriate the alt-right even more, and therefore the feud would be escalated even further. Now, Richard Spencer's Down syndrome son, James Alsop, would upload a video in defense of Rage After Storm. James Alsop was already a popular established figure in the alt-right and race realist circles, meaning this was an official declaration that the alt-right would be taking up arms against the skeptics. His video is disgustingly low effort, and his basic premise is that the skeptics are disingenuous for attacking a single source instead of the broader ideas of her video.
What Worski did, to my understanding, and the impression I got from all of this, is that Worski goes after one source that she used and says, "Oh, this is not right," and then they use that to try to disprove the whole case. The other problem I have with what Worski did is he goes on and then says that this is somehow racist. If you watch the Worski's most recent video that they did about an hour ago, they say that we don't want to stereotype people by groups. We don't want to stereotype people by race. That's racist. We don't want to do that. And that's fine. I guess you could say that's fine. But they're misunderstanding what they're misunderstanding, in my opinion, what they're misunderstanding the case that Rage After Storm was making. They're misunderstanding her case. When she says that race is real and here are these different ways we can observe race, different differences between racial groups, that's not a racist case to be making. She's not saying that every person of race X has this characteristic. She's not saying that. She's not saying that at all. And so I think that's a little bit of a misunderstanding. It's a little bit disingenuous to make that case that they're making there.
James Alsop concludes his video with an offer to discuss the topics on Andy Worski's channel.
Yeah, I think it's important, an important conversation. I mean, there's a lot of people out here with huge platforms. Huge. The Worskis have 250,000, and the race and IQ is a totally valid topic to talk about, totally valid subject to talk about. And I think it needs to be talked about because the brutal truth is that most people don't have the patience to sit through 40 minute Stefan Molyneux video. They just don't. And so people need to be talking about that in more accessible ways. That's what I want to do. And yeah, Worskis, if you guys are out there, I'm not doing this to bash you guys at all. I generally like your channel. I just think that the response to this whole rage thing's been a little bit unfair. And I'd love to come on and talk about that. So let's make it happen, guys.
Andy and Chris Worski host Humane Mind, now known as Truth Ministry, on Worski Live, a YouTuber with 12 subscribers, to discuss how crazy woke the world has gotten. Within minutes, Warski is made aware of James Allsop's video by the live chat, and the conversation is directed towards Rage After Storm.
Wait, okay, I want to ask you, what's your thoughts on yesterday's stream and the whole Rage stuff? There's still a big debate on Twitter about it right now. Apparently, James Allsop, I'm on his video right now, that's against me apparently, but it's called In Defense of Rage After Storm. So I haven't watched the video yet. I have it up right here, and
once again, they almost entirely go after one source and then blame everything on Nurture without providing sources of their own. If you think I'm exaggerating the pointless straw man circling, then you'd be wrong. Here's Andy Warski explaining that adopted children from different races will have identical IQs.
Okay, you take you take a black kid and you take a white kid, and they're born in the same household through adoption, right? So
yeah.
Same parents, same environment. Does the black kid have a lower IQ? Do you think?
That depends on the individuals, but I think you will find a very similar IQ between the two.
Okay, that's my point. That's my point. Like, that's all I'm saying.
He doesn't mention any source or twin study because to this day, he probably doesn't even know what a twin study is. And yet he will sit on his throne of cocaine and dead babies and proclaim that Rage After Storm needs to use better sources. Atheism is unstoppable, and James Allsop joined the call about 30 minutes into the stream. Atheism is Unstoppable admits he hasn't even seen Rage After Storm's video, but repeatedly and irritatingly inserts himself into the conversation anyway.
Maybe you guys can catch me up here because I never got to see this video. Was it taken down? The Rage one?
No. All right. So
it's just banned in certain countries. That's all.
Here, I'll give you James Allsop's here too.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
James Allsop agrees that the source used was poor, but he and Atheism is Unstoppable essentially support her claims on racial differences. I wouldn't call this stream a debate. All parties involved are extremely friendly. They don't go heavily into the data either way, and rather refer to common perceived genetic traits.
It's even better just to not include a source, and then when people press you on it, then go say, oh yeah, here's my present a good source. You don't use the Daily Stormer. You're not going to use like the rightstuff.biz. Like any kind of source like that, that's only going to harm your credibility when it comes to making arguments.
Wait a minute, like Breitbart?
Yeah.
Huh? Like Breitbart?
Even Breitbart's a better source than Daily Stormer.
Actually, yeah. That's true, yeah.
It's more credible.
But I honestly think that the subject matter is more important of an issue than this girl choosing bad sources. I mean, we all know the Daily Stormer is garbage, so.
Yeah.
But like, the bell curve does not get a mention here, which is interesting.
So what's the bell curve? I've heard about it. I was reading up a little bit on it yesterday when people were bringing up, like, what is this exactly?
Well,
so people who don't know.
Yeah, a famous book from the mid 90s or early 90s. When did it come out first?
97, I believe.
Okay, yeah, and it's from Charles Murray, and it was very controversial because, the same reason you guys are kind of freaking out, because it's all the conclusions that people can draw from this, but the facts about IQ, as they differ between groups of people, is making a lot of people uncomfortable. And a lot of people are like challenging the very notion of IQ and like the way the tests are done. And these are all desperate attempts to avoid the truth, which we all kind of know is there. And it's an ugly thing, and it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about.
There isn't a spine between the Warski twins, and they are pretty easily shifted towards agreeing with Rage After Storm's claims by the end of the stream.
So with this testosterone thing, if you acknowledge that more testosterone leads to more violence, and then you must acknowledge that blacks have more testosterone, then it does make sense that they're going to tend to be more violent. It's just, those are scientific facts. And
Sure. Yeah. You know what? Because I know the hardest thing for people to admit is, for example, the whole, like, when I started watching your videos back in the day, it was about the uncomfortable thing was, do black people cause per capita more violence than white people? And it's true. I've said it. You've said it. A bunch of us have gotten shit for it. And now most people can be like, fine. Now this is the next step. Like, what is causing that? So awesome point. This makes more sense to me.
Mouthy Buddha was another gay skeptic used to boost their diversity quota. He would release a video on July 1st attacking both Rage After Storm for her claims and the skeptics for their poor response.
Sloppily joking around on a stream
is the wrong way to do it. The alt-right's arguments are much more complex and difficult to take down. Millennial Woes and Jared Taylor are no Riley Dennis. They are no Milo Stewarts. They are intellectual. They use facts. They focus on culture and race every single day. We have to tighten up our arguments.
Now, there are many rumors that he had actually received a prolapsed anus from the fence post that had been inserted into his ass. Mouthy Buddha announced that he would be making videos directly debunking Rage After Storm and the alt-right claims on race.
And as rational centrists, as cultural libertarians, classical liberals, as conservatives, the time has come to pick on those our own size. And I can assure you, this will be much more difficult than making fun of feminists.
Unlike other skeptics, he would state that he believed race and genetic differences are real. However, he would argue that these differences should not be used for forming policy.
When criticizing white nationalism, we must acknowledge that race is real, that it has differences and variations. But even more important, which is that if people make this claim, which is true, we don't get to suddenly use the words which have so often been thrown at us.
The video would conclude with Jordan B. Peterson stating that the alt-right lacks purpose.
It's incomplete. I mean, it's identification with the Father, and that's necessary. But the purpose of identification with the Father is to become the Son, right? And I mean that in all of its symbolic manifestation. And the problem with nationalism is that it forgets that. It forgets that the purpose of the nation is to give rise to the individual.
In hindsight, it's amusing to know that this empty shell of a man became a drug addict with a son-in-law named Tyrone. Meet the ultimate bell curve outlier. Truly the world's dumbest man. No bullshit. No, that's the name. No bullshit. This conservative YouTuber was another in a long line of many that produce low-effort videos with a simple format of narrating over the right-wing news of the day. No Bullshit had not heavily promoted race realist claims before, so it was a surprise when he made a video in support of Rage After Storm. His YouTube channel had hundreds of thousands of subscribers at the time, meaning he would be one of the largest commentators to support Rage After Storm and her claims. And he would be able to neutralize the skeptic's previous viewer advantage in this debacle. No Bullshit's video is a complete defense of Rage After Storm. He says that differences in race is common sense and briefly goes over the specific claims. It isn't high art, and it certainly isn't a scientific analysis. It simply justifies the claims from a common sense approach that every race is obviously unique, both physically and mentally.
Well, this Race's Real stuff got really touchy for people when she brings up average IQs being lower for black people. Apparently people are cool with all the positive attributes in their race, like being taller, stronger, and more athletic. People will easily admit blacks are more likely to be basketball players. But if you even mention that they're also lower IQ on average, it starts a whole shitstorm. Or maybe I should say, it starts a whole rage after shitstorm. But I digress.
And rather than attacking any of the skeptic-specific counterclaims, he goes after their gang behavior directly.
So right from the start on this IQ discussion, the whole idea of IQ has been misconstrued. This idea that saying blacks are lower IQ on average makes them dumb and inferior is just flawed. It's coming from knee-jerk defensive reactions from black people, and it's coming from timid, cucked up white people who are too afraid to admit these truths and offend people. It's funny how the edgy skeptic YouTubers turn into SJWs as soon as you start talking about the differences between races. These recent debunking videos of Rage After Storm have been laughable at best. They provide no evidence and use straw men against her.
No Bullshit would actually host SomeBlackGuy on stream the following day after talking with him in private. Why SomeBlackGuy would debate No Bullshit and not Tree of Logic and Rage After Storm is simple. He had a larger following and is an idiot. Despite this, No Bullshit is somehow made to look at least partially intelligent in this stream. The two sit, give a little leeway to either side, But No Bullshit essentially let SomeBlackGuy run away with the conversation to repeatedly go to tangents about how Rage After Storm's source was bad.
One of the major things that we talked about were, say, things that came from her sources, like things that were inside of her article, like say from the Daily Stormer that said, and she quoted that blacks lack abstract thinking and have no concept of Western morality.
He hits back a little to get SomeBlackGuy to agree with some of the actual claims Rage After Storm made, but lacked the mental capabilities to push any further.
And back to why we said it was why I said it was controversial before is we're talking about people's brains. We're talking about who you are a lot.
Yeah, and one thing, like, and all this stuff that you said, and I feel like say Rage, if she would have brought up any examples of some of the stuff that you just covered, I feel like, say, she would have been safe.
Disappointingly, No Bullshit doesn't push back against SomeBlackGuy's justification for not debating Rage After Storm and Tree of Logic because they were mean to him on Twitter.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest things where I'm like, dude, guys, if she would have approached the situation completely different, you know, I would have had no problem whatsoever. And one thing, I kept seeing this, and a few people messaged me, and I even talked to some people in DMs just to clarify my position, just to have them think objectively. Whether they're saying, oh, you're no different from Tariq Nasheed by suggesting she's an Uncle Tom. I was like, hold the fuck on. Tariq Nasheed calls me an Uncle Tom and a coon. We're simply associating with white people. Not doing anything other than associating.
How dare you? How dare you?
I was at fucking VidCon hanging out with people, and he's saying, oh, I'm a coon minion and all this shit. And I think it's funny as fuck. I just released a video about it. We were laughing our ass off, me and Sar Vera. Great time. I don't care that he calls me that shit. I think it's fucking hilarious. However, you know, Tree cries and gets really fucking hurt about this stuff, and people are like, oh God, you need to apologize and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, what? I'm like, dude, this is the fucking internet, man. You gotta have thicker skin. You can't, I'm like, dude, you can't expect me to, and I didn't even directly call her something, you know, and even if I did directly call her Uncle Ruckus or something, I'm like, that is the mildest shit that I could say. You know, like, I didn't fucking like, you gun whore bitch slut.
Coach Red Pill would upload another video titled, The Skeptics Are Getting Cucked. This time focusing on the behavior of skeptics at VidCon 2017. He essentially says the skeptic community's positive interactions with progressives like Lacey Green and Francesca Ramsey at VidCon was a scheme by corporate media and the left to steal the then popular skeptic audience.
Ad revenue for MTV and all the other music channels is directly tied to ratings, and the ratings are falling off a fucking cliff. All the kids are going to YouTube. So it is clear that at VidCon, MTV decided that they were going to make an offensive, to go out there and scope out who are the up-and-comers, who are the names that they want to be associated with.
He contrasts this with their negative interactions against Rage After Storm, stating that they were aggressive because they had nothing to financially gain by discussing race realism.
Francesca Ramsey made it clear that they were interested in working with the skeptic community, the skeptic YouTubers, but MTV did not feel comfortable with the race realism shit. And that's why they gave up Rage After Storm. Rage After Storm, who knew all of the skeptics, had been on most of their shows at one point or another, or was at least friendly, because Rage After Storm was an ambitious YouTuber and went out there and pushed her name. Now, of course, I don't know this.
He then predicts MTV will hire some skeptics to make shows, which is a prediction that we're still waiting on.
MTV is going to hire from the skeptic crowd a few people, at least 3.
Looking back, Coach Red Pill's videos are probably the most timeless. Not because what he is saying is interesting or true, but because of the quips. The quips are what is timeless.
Arnita Sarkeesian bullying the boogie, what's his name, whatever his number is, I don't really follow him. I find him depressing. I mean, that guy is so fucking fat. And his video, the video that he put out, shaking like a fucking little girl. I know everybody likes him, and I know that everybody's gonna think I'm an asshole for talking shit about him, but the fact of the matter is, he behaved like a fucking pussy. I didn't want to offend Anita Sarkeesian. Please, I'm so sorry. Please, Anita, didn't you like what I said? And I ran it by everybody because I didn't want to say anything that would offend anybody. And you know, I'm a cis white male and privileged. He's a fucking pussy. Huh? The guy was gelded. I mean, it's an insult to it's an insult to men. Fuck human beings. It's an insult to me, the way he behaved. And I'm telling you right now, right the fuck now, look me in the eye when I speak to you, little motherfucker. If you ever act like that again, I will find you and I will take a rusty scythe and I will cut your fucking balls off along with your little tiny prick.
At some point in June or July 2017, Coach Red Pill would upload a video titled "My First Approach to the Problem of Race Realism." I can't find an archive or even anyone referencing this video. I'm guessing that by now, the only copy is on a hard drive buried with Coach Red Pill and other Ukrainian dissidents. On July 4th, an article would be posted to the Daily Stormer by their head honcho. He essentially says that the alt-right is prepared for war, consider the skeptics are willing. Then points out two main reasons why they have been so hostile to open debate so far. The first being that they don't want to hurt people's feelings, and the second being that they don't want to get kicked off YouTube. Tree of Logic posts her video attacking SomeBlackGuy for avoiding a debate with her and Rage After Storm. This is the video I previously referenced to show their argument on Twitter. Essentially, it just summarizes the entire situation from Tree of Logic's point of view.
Derek, I'm about to end this video because I have proven what a lying sack of shit you really are, but I do have an offer for you, one that you can't refuse. Since you keep telling people that you don't want to debate me because I'm going to yell at you, become irate, and or all emotional, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 85, 900, 950, 1,000. Here's $1,000. I will put this in an escrow account along with a signed contract stating that if I yell at you or become irate, emotional, and or irrational, you are awarded this money.
While everyone is busy arguing amongst themselves about Rage After Storm's video, she takes it upon herself to explain what she really meant on Twitter. This would mean going full fash. By July 6th, Rage After Storm would announce the deletion of her old videos to cater for her new style, and a delay until her next release. She lets us know that this new style would continue on with her more recent controversial takes. As if it wasn't obvious enough, SomeBlackGuy would make a Periscope video once again stating that he wouldn't debate Tree of Logic.
When she first was initially saying that I specifically called her a coon, she made a video, crying, saying I specifically called her a coon, and then when people called her out, said, no, all I did was I liked a tweet that said that she was the daughter of Uncle Ruckus, and I also responded to a tweet that said that she's probably she's like an Uncle Tom, and I thought it was funny because of the situation. You guys already know about all that shit in Rage's video and all this stuff. This isn't about that debate. It was just that she made a video saying, like, hey, I challenge you to a debate. And the way she was acting from the very beginning, I was like, well, I'm not interested in debating somebody who's acting like this childish. It's kind of fucking weird.
Rage After Storm would appear on a James Allsup stream titled European Immigration and Race with Rage After Storm around the 9th of July 2017. They go over most of the alt-right talking points in the format of Rage After Storm explaining to Allsup how immigration has ruined Europe and the historical causes for such.
Which is one thing that really does irritate me, the amount of people that throw around the word Nazi, the amount of people that, just talk about it as if it's the worst thing on earth. I wouldn't classify myself as a Nazi or anything like that, but there are some aspects of it where that can be taken into account, and you could say, okay, you know what, that does work well. Same with nationalist socialism. It does work well in some societies if it is implemented in the correct way. So when all these people saying Trump is literally Hitler, he's literally a Nazi, I don't think these people quite understand that. Essentially, at first, Nazism did have some good aspects for Germany. Not all of them. I would never say it was the best thing that ever happened to Germany, but he did do a lot of good things, Hitler himself.
She also almost immediately goes over how she is one of the millions of women in Switzerland that have been molested by an immigrant.
You're very likely to be grabbed on the arse. There was an instance where I was in the tram in the winter, and it was extremely busy. It was almost like being shoulder to shoulder with other people. You know, at this point in time, you kind of grab your bag to make sure no one steals anything. And someone actually grabbed up my coat and grabbed my bottom. That wasn't a pleasant experience, and I was extremely shocked. I was almost petrified. I didn't really say anything much.
It's worth mentioning that Rage After Storm celebrated the suicide of the Linkin Park lead singer, Chester Bennington. This is of course because despite Bennington not being Jewish, the Linkin Park music obviously is. She received some criticism for this, but it paled in comparison to other attacks at the time. Mouthy Buddha releases his first video in a series attacking the alt-right and race realism. He huffs his own farts for the first third of the video, talking about how his previous video was so popular and how the audience from both sides are so mad.
I have received nearly 3,000 subscribers. My video has been shared more than any other video I have ever made, given that the views are approaching nearly 50,000 in less than 4 days. And all of these figures are continuing to climb rapidly, with a general trend of views and subscribers increasing every day. And so far, from what I can tell, none of these people are sharing my videos and subscribing to my channel because they're on the left. It is actually the opposite, and where I am getting the support is totally unambiguous, meaning the people, so far at least, that these kinds of videos are resonating with is not Antifa. But here is a more useful point about all this stuff. Many of us need to stop being afraid of dislikes. They are not representative of viewership or subscribers. What they do represent, at least in my case, is that many alt-righters do not like to see their movement criticized. However, something I was not expecting that really did surprise me was how hard the pushback was from those who would appear to be on my side of the street, with many saying I am making a mistake by adopting race realism as a reasonable approach when discussing racial differences, or that racial differences even exist, or that I'm granting too much validity to the alt-right by addressing them at all.
He then transitions with an amusing sketch into providing his current argument against race realism.
But what exactly do I mean when I say alt-right? Who am I talking to? Do I just play an alt-right YouTuber and pause between his points so I can make my own? Do I go after Richard Spencer? What about Mike Enoch or the Daily Stormer? Is there any core issue that everyone I just mentioned completely agrees on? Yes. I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. Do for our lives to be over. I wanna wait.
UAV power levels 5% activate.
Yo, Bill 1488 passed. You're joking. No, I'm watching it on the news. It's beautiful. Well, when does it start? When is it? Right now. Yeah, it looks like they've moved the vast majority of blacks to Florida. Really? Yeah, the bill says like in 10 to 15 years, Florida was going to be underwater anyways. So. Oh, fuck it. None of that is important. What's going to happen to my friends? But all your friends are white. Oh, yeah. Yeah, all of them. I'm white, Tim's white, Blake's white, fucking Luke's white. Tyrone! Oh, fuck, I forgot about him. Wait a second. What about me? What about you? I'm mixed race. Seriously? Yes. What do they do to mixed race people? They do what they do to the Jews. They do what they do to the Jews.
Amusingly, his argument is that the claims on racial differences is correct, but shouldn't be put into policy. He even says that he would be happy for freedom of association and voluntary ethno-states forming. So I'm not quite sure what the argument even is.
Eugenics is rational, and IQ is highly predictive of human behavior. But enforcing these ideas as public and social policy is deeply unethical. This is not to say that some form of voluntary eugenics should never be utilized in a free society, or that we'd be better off stripping away the taboo of discussing IQ differences in the domain of politics. I would even go so far as to say that having a political representative be able to stand up in front of America and say that races are different and that voluntary eugenics programs will be available to those who find themselves of lower intelligence and who wish to receive financial incentives would be useful, which is to say that to have a politician be able to tell the truth like this, stigma-free, would be a net positive for the entire world. But I also want to have sex with Kate Beckinsale. We know that unless a fascist regime kicks into full gear, this rhetoric will never happen in America. It will not happen because for better or worse, and in the quote current year, it's unethical to put forward such a policy. I grant you that whites are worthy of preserving and that the general trajectory is of whites dying out. I also grant you that this is a net negative for Western civilization. But what I am exclaiming to so many of you on the alt-right is that we can find more practical and ethical solutions to these problems in a unified nationalism, in drastically reducing immigration. Now, I'm all for free association if you would like to wall off a zone and live as whites and whites only. I think you should be free to do this. My argument is never coming from a place of force, but a place of honest critique.
He then proceeds to say that the alt-right is sensitive, extreme, and following these conclusions will always lead to wider atrocities.
And I haven't even begun to mention how awful it is to think about this stuff all the time, and how the act itself of constantly thinking about racial differences and IQ differences and seeing humans more as statistics than fellow neighbors of sentience leads to the development of websites like the Daily Stormer, which is an absurd place to get information about the world. Too many people are not operating around these sensitive topics carefully enough, leading to a number of young guys whose worldview has devolved into a hypersensitized reactivity and hatred of others.
Mouthy Buddha does, however, predict future turmoil in the alt-right, caused through poor branding.
It's hard to deny that the harshest voices of the alt-right ruin whatever truth could be found within their message because of how tribalistic, immature, and emotional they are.
He concludes his video by pulling the old, you mad bro? And directed at the alt-right's response.
Especially when we consider that the video I made before this was merely an announcement that the direction of my criticism will be pointing toward the alt-right. Just an announcement. No actual criticism was even given, and because of this, so many threw tantrums and had to let me know they were having a tantrum. Unsubscribed, they would say.
This video intentionally didn't go into specific claims or conclusions made by either side, but rather summarizes Mouthy Buddha's current position and his analysis of the opposing side.
Guys, how in the hell can you disagree with me if I have not presented an argument yet? This proves that way too many of you will defend the alt-right even when you have no idea what the argument is. This proves that so many of you, no matter what I say, will call me anti-white, or a cuck, or a Jew.
Coach Red Pill interviews veteran quitter and ex-Gamergate colonel Mr. Medica on July 21st. This stream was exactly the same as every other Mr. Medica interview. They discuss Gamergate, the 2016 election, and a black-pilled future where everything sucks.
I guess my vision for where the future of the platform is, I think what we're seeing is a kind of a muscling in by corporations that were kind of more in the realm of television. I think that's not just advertisers, I think that's the actual television companies that are producing content. And I think they're looking for ready-made platforms that they can just easily move into that have a pre-installed base. And I think kind of with the adpocalypse and just YouTube in general with their terms of service and kind of their guidelines and where they're going, I think they're trying to ready it up. I think we're going to see a very bizarre merger of kind of older media and newer media with them trying to shift on over into it. And I think that's going to push out a lot of the independent people that were looking for the, I guess, advertising model to pay for them.
Around the 1 hour 18 minute mark, they both briefly discuss the skeptics and the alt-right. Both of them say the skeptics are lame, but they fully support
meritocracy
and reject any racial-based policies. The interview is also relevant because it shows Mr. Medica and Coach Red Pill are on friendly terms. Both figures would go on to play major roles in the internet blood sports community.
You have Antifa, who are just basically toddlers having a tantrum. You have the alt-right, who are basically just, frankly, they're racists who, are obsessed with this, ethnic state kind of stuff, which I cannot personally stomach. Because I suppose I'm a civic nationalist in the sense of, having...
I had this conversation last night, kind of talking a little bit about race realism. This notion they put forward. I'm the kind of guy that believes in meritocracy.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a country or a world that's a caste system.
No.
I think it's bullshit. I hate the notion that if you're born, you're automatically judged, and I don't want to live in Gattaca.
No,
you know what I mean? Like if you have the ability, if you're smart enough, you should get the job, you should get into college, you should get the reward for the hard work you put in, and I don't give a shit what your skin color is.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want aristocracies.
You earned it.
Yes, exactly. I don't want aristocracies. I want a democracy. Yeah.
Rage After Storm deactivated her Twitter and YouTube channels on the 24th of July 2017 and would never appear again. Quite simply, she had lit the match that caused the skeptics and alt-right communities to have both an internal and external war. Many would blame her disappearance on the internet to the skeptics' dogpiling and Kraut and T's attack on her personal life. Whether willing or not, she would become a martyr in this war that had only just begun, and the alt-right would strike back with a vengeance. At the end of July, Tree of Logic hosts a stream with David Cedarwood and Braving Ruin, otherwise known as Edgy Sphinx. It was a complete circle jerk that just summarized most of the related drama and repeated the race realist position on the matter. The most interesting part of this stream is Tree of Logic says she has spoken to Rage of Storm, and she stated that she would be wiping her content to shift away from the skeptics.
Meanwhile, Rage goes to her, she's so betrayed. She feels so betrayed by the skeptic community. She cleans her entire channel of every video she made that was related to skeptic community topics. All right. This is the reason why, stop listening to what the left is telling you. This is the reason why she cleaned her channel. She didn't clean her channel because she was a coward. No.
This would obviously not be the case because we're still waiting on her return. Coach Red Pill uploads another video on July 26th titled Cowardice and Ruthlessness, once again summarizing the recent skeptic drama. He specifically targets Kraut and T for his fake accent and getting Rage After Storm suspended from Kipper Central.
Now, Kraut and T uses this RP accent, but the thing is he's faking it. It's not real. He pretends to have it, but I know enough to know that he doesn't speak RP.
He would call Kraut and T's action ruthless, as he had shown that he was willing to abandon morality to achieve victory.
Everybody can see the tweet. What does that mean? He wants everybody to know that he is ruthless enough to try to get somebody fired. He wants people to think that he is that ruthless. That's what it means. That's the only reason why he would have tweeted something. Because a tweet ultimately is public communication. He is at once trying to get Rage After Storm fired, but the real issue is to convince people that he has the ruthlessness to do such a thing.
He would argue that no one could know whether Rage After Storm was being paid by Kipper Central at the time, so we should just assume Kraut and T's intent was to go after her employer.
It later turned out, parenthetically, that this employer didn't really pay her, but they did drop her. But they didn't pay her, so insofar as money, insofar as her rice bowl, it doesn't really matter. But see, Kraut didn't know that when he sent this tweet. He was trying to get her fired, trying to get her to lose her income.
Coach Red Pill then calls Kraut and T a coward for backtracking in relation to Kipper Central and being too weak to stand by his ruthlessness.
What does he do? He backtracks. He backtracks and he calls Rage After Storm's former employer, who didn't pay her, it was apparently a volunteer position, calls them up to get them to tell him that he had nothing to do with her being fired. Crowd & T is a coward. He is a coward who pretended to be ruthless, just as he pretends everything in his life. He pretends to be an intellectual. He pretends to be of a higher social class than he is. He pretends to be educated. He pretends to be a big brain, and he pretends to be a ruthless individual who should be reckoned with. But he is none of these things. He's just a pretender.
Stefan Molyneux had around 650,000 subscribers when he decided to briefly discuss the Rage After Storm drama in an hour-long call-in show. He would call the skeptics race denialists. They used the potential for negative outcomes as a reason not to debate the point.
It's a nice little thing to think about, and I hope that one day we'll have a society where reason and evidence hold sway. But reason and evidence does not hold sway. Just look at the skeptic community and their views on race and IQ. Denial, 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 obfuscate, obfuscate, obfuscate. And when they finally lose the debate, they say, well, but let's say that it's true. What does it matter? How does it help? It's like, oh, come on. Oh, come on. Oh, come on.
Right. Well, I mean, that's.
I mean, what if the Christians had said, okay, sure, we accept the logical arguments, there's no God, but how does it help? And they'd say, well, it doesn't matter what helps, it matters what's true. But now it's race and IQ. Oh, it's got to be somehow mysteriously pragmatic and productive in the long way in ways I can't understand. It's just, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's embarrassing to see people that staunchly in denial about such an essential issue. And just bleating on about how, okay, well, maybe it's true, but what does it matter? It's like, who are you to say what the fucking truth matters or not? You're not the arbiter of what's true and what value. Anyway, go on. Sorry, you were saying?
SomeBlackGuy uploads a response to Stefan Molyneux's segment. He says everything is just like Gamergate and that the skeptics are being misconstrued.
It reminds me of Gamergate in a lot of ways, where Gamergate, for the people that were pro Gamergate, we knew what it was about. It was about ethics in journalism, gaming journalism specifically. And a lot of people that are anti-Gamergate, they were just peddling this narrative saying that, hey, it's just a harassment movement against women, and they're all a bunch of misogynists, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't care to listen to the opposition. They just kept listening to each other, watching each other's videos, and keep running with that narrative and all these misconceptions. And I'm seeing the same fucking thing happen with this right now. Because I challenge you, anybody. I challenge anybody, any white identitarian, any alt-right, anybody that thinks that I think that race and IQ does not exist on a genetic level. I challenge you to find a clip of me saying something like that. And if you find something like that, I'll give you $1,000. And why I'll give you $1,000 is because you will not find it. You won't find it because I would never give that fucking much money to somebody. And that's the biggest problem. There's all this gross misrepresentation, and then I was kind of like, who cares about that? Whatever, these people are stupid. But then Stefan Molyneux, the fucking world's leading philosopher, had to start opening his mouth and saying the same fucking thing.
He says he never claimed IQ wasn't caused by genetics, and redirects his video to attack Rage After Storm and the Daily Stormer source once again. He abandons the race and IQ argument entirely to focus on denying other behavioral qualities like abstract thinking.
They keep saying it's all about the IQ and the bell curve and all this dumb shit. But no, it had to do with some stuff that she said that had no basis in reality, when she talked about black people lacking abstract thinking, having no concept of Western morality, and then wondering where the fuck is she getting this from? And you're seeing that, the sources that she quoted in the video came from the Daily Stormer, a neo-Nazi website.
He then says that the people promoting race realism are doing so because they are evil racists. And he refers to the greyest Jew in the world, Sam Harris's views on race.
You want to talk about data? No problem. But once you start attaching your ideology to it, that's when people have a problem. And that is literally the only problem that has to do with the whole IQ debate. It's not about that the data exists, it's about how you're fucking using it. So essentially what's happening with the data is they're taking it, and that shows that all the different IQs about all these different races, like say the bell curve, for example, it doesn't specifically single anybody out. But it shows that black people on average have the lowest IQs. And so you have these, these white nationalists, you have these alt-righters that are taking this data and saying, it's purely because of genetics. And because of that, since it's on a genetic level, that there's nothing we can do for these black people, and we can't live with them. It would be immoral to live with them. We need our ethno-state. We need to be with our own kind. And a lot of people obviously think that's fucking retarded because it just completely disfacts, like, say, environmental differences, nature versus nurture, which does play a role. It absolutely plays a role. People always want to talk about Sam Harris, this and that, and Sam Harris says the same fucking thing.
SomeBlackGuy concludes by completely strawmanning Stefan Molyneux and further emphasizing that people shouldn't discuss race realism because it's a mean topic that isn't pragmatic. Boo-hoo.
So it's painfully obvious that the people that are usually after this information, you know, they have a lot of prejudice. A lot of times they're bigots and whatnot, because you just wonder, like, well, what do you want to know this information for? Why do you care about this stuff? It's not just because, oh, people simply just care about the facts and the data and the evidences, especially when you see what type of videos they're making. When you're just pitting, like, say, in Rage After Storm's video, just black versus white people, and you're not talking about any other race, you're seeing that there's an agenda, and you're not just purely talking about this stuff. And then people are obviously going to have a problem with that. And a lot of these ideologues don't fucking get it. They just think that, oh, you have a problem with this video because you must be denying that race has any tie to IQ on a genetic level. And it's like, dude, nobody fucking said that. At least I didn't say that. And I take offense to that, because Stefan Molyneux talks about he's this intellectual juggernaut. He's this big powerhouse, this great philosopher. He always talks to people about it's not an argument. And this motherfucker is just guilty of one of the biggest cardinal sins in my fucking genre.
Kraut releases a video once again focused on the source that was used. He goes so far to debunk things in the source that Rage After Storm didn't even mention at all.
I decided to stick mainly to her sources rather than anything else, which happened to be, amongst other things, a Daily Stormer article, Alien Mind, Black People Have No Conception of European Morality, in which the claims are as follows: law is an abstract concept just like promise, obligation, morality, time, consequences, and remorse. Because of this, the thought of actually putting yourself in the position of another cannot be formulated by the African Negro. When we see someone in pain or bleeding, our instincts are to help. However, in Africa, the sight of someone in distress instills a bloodlust in the Negro that spurs them on to increase the agony of the victim in horrific ways. There's a video online of African Negroes hunting, killing, and eating one another. It does not appear as if they have any conscience about doing this, and from their own explanation in other videos, it seems to just be natural behavior for them. All of which, and let's put this bluntly by using a word barely ever used in correct context these days anymore, is simply racist bullshit.
He then begins a tirade against Braving Ruin and David Cedarwood for posting that Kraut deplatformed Rage After Storm from Kipper Central without also posting his limp-wristed retraction.
As it happens, yesterday night, this shit, 1 month after it passed, Edgy Sphinx and David Cedarwood brought this up again, and even better, lying by omission by deliberately not posting my retraction statement. There's no sugarcoating this or any other context, especially from you, David Cedarwood, because you know exactly that I tweeted that retraction at you. Both of you deliberately kept my retraction out of this, refused to tweet it out and share it, even though you knew about it. Both of you lied with the intention to start up a shitstorm.
Once again, Kraut misses the forest for the trees. Kraut then states that he is receiving flags against his YouTube videos and Patreon posts because of this overhyped drama,
devolving into even more ludicrous claims over how I supposedly doxed her, all whilst launching a campaign of attempting to flag my channel off YouTube and flag my patron out of existence. A lot of you may have noticed how a lot of my videos went down and patron posts disappeared, and now you know why. All of this because of a lie. All of this because of something I said to have been stupid an entire month ago.
This enters in what can be only defined as a rant by an insane supervillain. Kraut would then return to somewhat normalcy and tell us that he has directly emailed Kipper Central, and they assured him that he didn't cause Rage After Storm suspension. He then essentially says it doesn't matter anyway, and her being suspended was a justified repercussion for her public statements.
I have to ask you two little gobsheads, what exactly were your intentions here? Was that revenge for your little Nazi bitch queen supposedly getting flagged off the internet even though she deleted her stuff herself and ran away? Was it revenge for last year's video on you? Are you just mad little shits because I didn't apologize to you and your false flagging little shit cronies in person? What makes you think that I owe you specifically a personal apology? And then whilst all of this is unfolding, you go on a live stream to bitch out of all things about how those who went to VidCon went there to ally themselves with social justice. There's only one apology due here, and that is to Jeff, Nick, and Habib, who told me that I shouldn't encourage you to come back to YouTube because you're a little spurg. However, to get back to this, I kind kind of had a few revelations myself, mainly because the first thing I did when Edgy and Cedarwood brought this up was email the editor of that blog. And what I got as a response really surprised me. Over the course of 5 emails, it was clear cut. No, you didn't cause her to get fired. Some of her contributors are subscribed to her themselves. These are views we strongly disagree with. We received several complaints outside of Twitter. It was not her job. We didn't pay her. And far more interestingly, something that really got me thinking a little over whether I should have apologized in the first place was when he told me, and even if we had distanced ourselves from her because of you, you would have done nothing wrong. Let me put a little controversial notion out there for you all, shall I? The notion that you bear responsibility for your actions. A scary notion, I would imagine, for some of you. Do you remember the Marxist university professor who advocated for white genocide and consequently got fired from his job? Was he doing his social media separate from his job, or did he specifically state that he was a university professor? Rage After Storm directly linked that blog in her profile. Her livelihood did not depend on what she wrote on that blog. She did not write for the Kipper Central as a job that she would have kept separate from her YouTube channel and Twitter. I didn't search through her docs or any other personal information to find an employer. Rage After Storm made that blog part of her public social media engagement. She linked to it, she promoted it, she made a public point out of being connected to it. And please, if you may, can you show me the part of the UKIP party manifesto where it says that Negroes are incapable of understanding concepts like time, or that a Jewish conspiracy runs YouTube? Have you ever wondered why UKIP makes such consistent points out of not being a party that is associated with fascists or racists? Have you ever wondered why UKIP bans former members of the BNP from joining its ranks? Could it be, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but could it be that UKIP and UKIP members do not wish to associate with these kinds of views? Could it be that UKIP disagrees fundamentally with these views? And could it be that when someone who publicly states that you will find her opinions on a UKIP blog, who happens to make these statements on the same platform she uses for her other content, makes statements based on stuff like this, that it is an entirely legitimate question to ask that UKIP outlet if they represent these views too? I didn't have to search for a supposed job she had, neither was her supposed job my interest. It is, however, indeed of interest to know if a UKIP publication which she promotes on the same platform she uses to express her other views is in agreement with those views. Or are you saying it is entirely justifiable to keep your true political intentions and views secret when you write for an outlet tied to a political party? Rather than getting someone fired, it is of public interest to find out if a blog affiliated not with a private company but with a political party, which is promoted by one of the contributors, supports the views of that contributor. She made her unpaid writing on that blog a public matter. Nobody had to do any digging to find it. And since it happens to be a blog run by a UKIP member writing opinion pieces from a perspective of a party that has clearly condemned such views as those of Rage After Storm in the past, it is an entirely legitimate question to ask. Maybe? Or do you think maybe not? I'll let you have a little bit of a conversation over that. In the end, there is a simple fact that remains about this. I apologized for this a month ago, and you lied about it. But now, looking into this and after your behavior, I'm not really sure if I should have apologized in the first place. Rage After Storm didn't have a paying job at Kipper Central. Kipper Central distanced itself from her anyway because, duh, what a shock. They don't wish to associate with racists. And far more importantly, Rage After Storm publicly promoted and shared the fact that she was writing there. Ergo, she had made it part of her public YouTube persona as a social commentator. Consequently, it was not in any way nefarious to figure this out. And in the end, your Nazi bitch queen, Rage After Storm, as much as you would like to fantasize about her being silenced, packed her bags and ran away like a little bitch.
I can't find a huge amount on this, but Blonde in the Belly and David Cedarwood would discuss on Twitter the intentional removal of comments on Kraut's video. This would be further proof of the skeptics adopting an anti-free speech position in relation to criticism from the alt-right. Coach Red Pill releases a response to Kraut and T's video. He says it's obvious Kraut and T is scared. and he should stop kicking the dead horse known as Rage After Storm.
You never want them to see you sweating. You never want to appear to be frightened. And he comes across as really frightened, really scared. And he starts off and saying, you know, blames it all on YouTube, on Twitter rather. And then he launches into an attack on Rage After Storm. Now, there are multiple problems with this. First of all, nobody gives a shit about Rage After Storm. She's gone. She's out of the picture. She's no longer on YouTube, and more likely than not, she won't be coming back, at least not for a good long time, because she burned herself so much, and she discredited herself, and she just made herself look foolish. So she's gone from the picture, so she's in the past. Nobody cares about her.
He says the skeptics need to stop going in circles about the Daily Stormer source, and instead attack the actual claims.
It's not what she said. Nobody gives a shit about what the Daily Stormer is saying about race and black people and blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Everybody knows what this Daily Stormer is. It's not what she said. She merely referenced them.
He also recommends Kraut stop retracting retractions and actually stick to one story on the Kipper Central drama.
He never should have put out that tweet trying to get her fired. Trying to explain away the fact that, you know, she didn't earn her income, it just makes it worse. Because even though she didn't, it emphasizes the fact that that's what he did. See? Because he's essentially defending the indefensible rather. He is defending something that he should have just dropped. But no, he can't drop it. He can't drop it. He needs to paint Rage as a racist. When Rage, do you see her? Do you see her anywhere? I don't see her. Where did she go? Her videos? Her tweets? Anything? Hello? Rage After Storm, are you around?
Coach Red Pill also notes Kraut and T's loss in subscribers and tells him to take a break.
Well, because of this video, he has been hemorrhaging subscribers, you know, almost the second he put it up. You know, he's lost something like 600 subscribers as I'm putting this up. And of course, right now, it's almost noon in Europe, in London at least. People, as they wake up and start turning on their YouTube and start looking at this video, they're going to start unsubscribing to him even more and more. Because the video he put up, it was like absolutely the worst thing that he could have possibly done. The best that this guy can do, the best, I mean, if I were advising him, I would tell him, player, get on the fucking bench, shut your fucking mouth, and be gone for a month or two. That's the best he can do. But he's not going to do that. No, of course not. Of course not. He's going to keep on fighting this shit. He's going to keep on fighting this shit, and like a drowning man, he is going to go down.
An article is posted to the Daily Stormer that paints Rage After Storm as a martyr that has been unjustly attacked by the, quote, lying, hypocritical, cowardly vermin of the YouTube skeptic community. The skeptics' position would be framed in two ways. First was that they avoid rocking the boat in exchange for Patreon bucks, super chats, and to remain advertiser friendly. The second is that they dogpile, panic, and deplatform the opposition because they cannot meet the alt-right in the marketplace of ideas. The author concludes by ridiculing Kraut's newest video in his avoidance to name the Jewish people that started the Frankfurt School. Interesting. Sargon of Akkad's head honcho V, now going by Romanian TV, would arrive in the war zone to provide support to the injured Kraut and T battalion. The first half of his lackluster video discusses some irrelevant criticism he got over a racial joke he previously made. He would then run complete defense for Kraut and say that claims of deplatforming were spin and exaggerations.
So apparently Kraut did something retarded. From what I understand, the story goes like he got someone fired. But when I dug up, it seems that the story has spun so much that it's now suffering from vertigo. Why do people keep having to spin stories? I never know. Like, the moment someone tries to spin a story, clearly they try to character assassinate someone rather than just, you know, have valid concerns.
Showing that he knows absolutely nothing about the Rage After Storm drama, he would admit he didn't even know who she was and unironically call her Styx, Hex and Hammer. But I guess we could all make that mistake, honestly.
There was this girl, I think Styx and Hammer or someone, and they were posting on an ideology that crowd disagrees with. I think it was like right-wing ideology. Again, I didn't really get into this subject because I wasn't interested in it.
Another amazing moment is when V says Kraut and T has ghosted him. Like, how low can you get on that totem pole?
And I tried to speak with Kraut, but he's not responding for months. I think he's either somewhere else than Germany. I have no idea.
Despite saying it's been exaggerated, V does admit it's a dick move to contact Kipper Central, and he will criticize Kraut when he talks to him next.
But since people really asked what my opinion on it is, yeah, I think it's really dickish. I hope he never does it again. I'm going to have words with him, a firm talk, when he comes back online.
He concludes his video by ignoring all claims on race because, according to him, we should be focusing on ideas instead of identity.
Lauren Southern, she made a video about identity politics, completely missing the point of what identity politics are. Identity politics means black people are poor because they have been enslaved for hundreds of years and now they need reparations. Issue politics are like black people are poor because statistically there's more crime in their neighborhood, businesses are harder to open, they come from single parents households, they have the mentality that white people are against them, right? That's issue politics compared to identity politics. How does identity politics fix anything? I don't understand, right? It's like identity politics based on things that you can't change, like your race, your gender. Let's criticize ideas instead of criticizing melanin. Just my point, you know. It's like, oh my god, they're coming, oh my god. Like they weren't even like...
On the 30th of July, Kraut would host Sargon of Akkad's then popular show, This Week in Stupid, due to him being on holiday. Kraut would almost entirely focus on European news and present it in the most boring way possible.
I saw him in countless YouTube videos. He came and revealed himself to me, not in Jerusalem or so. No, in Canada. His name is Justin. To feel what I feel, you must pronounce it in French. Not Justin like Justin Bieber, but Justin, so that it sounds like je t'aime, and that's how it is meant. Moving on, we come to the head of the AfD in the German state of Bavaria, Peter Bystrom.
Kraut hosting Sargon's show while under scrutiny from the alt-right would show a united front amongst the skeptics and confirm that he had received King Sargon's blessing to carry out this war. In a more uplifting segment, Unite the Right occurred on the 11th to 12th of August. Leading up to this event, many public figures from the alt-right, conservative groups, and the skeptics either endorsed or disavowed this event. The division would be a sign of things to come. The event would be tarnished by an autistic man crashing his car, a fat woman having a heart attack, and a combination of feds and civilians explicitly promoting fascist slogans. The elitist media would use this as their chance to introduce the public to the new and improved alt-right, now with extra racism. A bunch of smug right-wingers would throw their own under the bus to get an easy "I told you so," and hence the division would be widened. SomeBlackGuy was one of the smug figures to use Charlottesville to attack quote-unquote identity politics.
Unite the Right, a wonderful event, a luau that united the Republican Party and all of its constituents. Oh wait, turns out it was a rally full of white nationalists and neo-Nazis that were triggered by a Robert E. Lee statue and that alienated themselves from the Republican Party by having Trump and Paul Ryan disavowing them and ended up getting somebody killed.
Remember, he won't debate Tree of Logic, but will come out of the woodwork to literally blame a car crash on the alt-right. SomeBlackGuy was a broken buck by the end of August. So what does a broken buck do? They break. So he uploads a video on the 28th of August announcing his break from making content. He doesn't take a break from shilling his Patreon and merchandise in the description, however. There was a longer explanation on his second YouTube channel, but it's since been removed, and honestly, who needs the longer version?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Just want to let you guys know that I'm going to be taking a couple of weeks off so I can just recharge my batteries, refocus, and I can have much better content once I'm back.
SomeBlackGuy would only have one more relevant interaction in the internet Bloodsports community, when he and Bunty King defended Mouthy Buddha on Twitter in October of 2017. And we'll get into that on a future episode. Before we conclude, let's cover SomeBlackGuy's low IQ moments since all of this occurred. In 2017, he said he doesn't vote because it's a two-party system. This is despite being a political YouTuber that shills Donald Trump to a mainly conservative audience.
I just want to say that I am not voting in this election. And why is that? It's because by this point it should be pretty clear that it's a broken system, that our two-party system is completely flawed.
In early 2018, a black midget and a gay Jew walk into a podcast. It's the Rubin Report featuring SomeBlackGuy. As the title states, on this episode they discuss identity politics, Gamergate, and the N-word. Truly riveting stuff.
Definitely, there's a part of like collectivism that that is rampant more now more than ever, and I feel like the media, they're trying their best to keep it like that because it keeps you watching.
SomeBlackGuy gets rejected by presumably a female again and thinks of going MGTOW in early 2018.
I promise I won't go MGTOW, but I was just saying, hey, I'm almost there. It's like they're trying. It's like they're trying to push me there. They want me to just swear off women and start making a separate channel called MGTOW Black or something. And you're like, hey, women are fucking, they're all disgusting tramps and we gotta rep these sex bots, you know? You just gotta fuck sex bots and put their legs behind their heads and just go to town with them and shit. Yeah, we can go to town with these fucking sex bots, man. Alright? MGTOW Black. Subscribe to MGTOW Black, alright? New video tomorrow.
SomeBlackGuy's rejection hits him hard, and he turns homosexual with Bunty King by mid-2018. This would be evident in their video upload and SomeBlackGuy's subsequent Instagram posts.
I see the ugly in everything now, and that's why I'm like, yo, I need to go back to just playing music.
Man, you can't live that way, bro. You can't live. I got you, bro. I got you.
In August 2018, SomeBlackGuy would upload a video randomly attacking Christian nationalist and SpongeBob enthusiast Nick Fuentes. He would prove that he's a satanic liberal by defending pornography with a decent joke.
This one comes from a super straight arrow, straight shooting mother effer. Fellas, we have to eradicate pornography. Honestly, this post makes me want to get into amateur porn and then send it to him. Be in the middle of slamming some chick, but make sure I call out his name. Oh, Nicholas J. Fuentes.
That's kind of gay.
Nick Fuentes would then reply on Twitter, and for some reason he would impersonate a 16-year-old white chick. I don't have any earlier records, but in 2019, SomeBlackGuy was receiving around $400 a month on Patreon from 120 patrons. This has since decreased to around $100 from 40 patrons. In 2017, SomeBlackGuy had around 250,000 subscribers, and today he has nearly 400,000. This shows that his subscriber count has stagnated, but remains steady. Despite subscriber numbers, his viewer counts for videos have substantially decreased. Looking over the past year, I estimate more than 90% of his videos didn't make more than 20,000 views. They'd be lucky to even get close. If you place his videos in order of viewership, you realize the obvious truth that this is a slowly dying channel that hasn't changed the format in half a decade. In recent times, SomeBlackGuy has become a contributor to the black obesity statistic. He has also scored himself a mail order bride from Eastern Europe. He begs his audience to fund her immigration paperwork without even a little hint of shame.
She's part of my family now. This is a part of my family. Her mom and her family in Lithuania are now technically a part of my family. And so now it's like I need to think about this and try to do what I can to make sure they're they're safe and secure, because I know other people would try to do the same thing for me if I was in that situation. I know they would try to do it, and you know, that's just what we do as people. We just try to help people out. So that's what I'm trying to do. So I just want to say thank you to the people that are going to donate. Like, I appreciate you guys so much, because I know there's going to be some support, and I just want to already preemptively say, like, thank you so much. And to the people that just share the links, anything helps, man. Anything helps. So thank y'all.
SomeBlackGuy was a previous promoter of the Candid app. This app was essentially a social experiment targeted at the anti-SJW community that trained an AI to perform better censorship. He even admits he is aware of the controversy in the video, but still does a full advert and defends the claims against them. So next time you complain about censorship online, just remember who's to blame.
However, since all that controversy and all this stuff started coming up, I started hearing Candid every single day. Multiple people started making videos about certain things, and I was just like, okay, I have to see what all the fuss is about. So I got on Candid, I downloaded the app, and I was just like, you know what? I actually dig this. So I was planning on making a video saying I don't know what all the fuss is about, and then simultaneously Candid hit me up and said, why don't you make a video? And I was like, well, what a coincidence, I was going to anyway, so I took this opportunity. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Candid.
Most recently, he has been advertising for the scam known as established titles.
Before we get into all that, this video is sponsored by, and I'm extremely excited about this, Established Titles. Established Titles is a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland, as well as support global reforestation efforts. Through Established Titles, you can purchase souvenir plots of lands in Scotland.
Souvenir plots of land actually means they don't really exist at all, and you can't go visit them.
And based on historical Scottish customs, this allows you to call yourselves a lord or lady.
Scottish customs means that this has no legal meaning whatsoever, and even if you actually owned real land in Scotland, then that doesn't bestow those titles regardless.
Cool thing is they pledge to keep the entire woodland free of any use and commit to planting a tree with every order with their global charity partners. One tree planted and trees for the future.
This company doesn't actually plant trees themselves, but donates pennies on the dollar to other not-for-profits to do that work.
I really believe in what they're doing. That's why I was so excited to be partnering with them. And most importantly, what I like a little bit more than the charity is I can be called a lord. This is something I've always wanted. You all must refer to me as Lord now. The title packs give you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land with a unique plot number on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, and an official certificate with a crest.
Once again, this land and title don't actually exist in any legal or real capacity. It's just the company owning a ton of land and a printer.
That baby, look at that, 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 so pretty. And check this out, the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will effectively be next to my plot within a few minutes of walking distance, thus making you a part of the SomeBlackGuy kingdom. And 'tis the holiday season, ladies and gentlemen. Established Titles is actually running a massive Black Friday sale right now. Plus, if you use code DEEPSET, you will get an additional 10% off. So go to DEEPSET to get your gifts now and help support the channel, baby. Thank you, Established Titles. Super stoked to be partnering with you guys.
In conclusion, SomeBlackGuy played a significant role in the early founding of internet Bloodsports, but would bow out of the community before it found its footing. He was initially friendlier than most to Rage After Storm, even falling madly in love with her. Therefore, when she broke his heart by calling him low IQ, he would declare vengeance and take the lead in the skeptic attacks against her. SomeBlackGuy was able to use his influence to include other skeptic orbiters in these attacks. He would also then ridicule various figures from afar that supported Rage After Storm and help draw the line between the two sides of the conflict. Crouten T's successful deplatforming of Rage After Storm and her removal of old content would turn her into a martyr. This, of course, was fuel to the fire and cause many other political figures to join in on the drama. As the drama and criticism grew, SomeBlackGuy would realise he would have to answer for his spiteful attempt to destroy Rage After Storm. So he simply abandoned the community. He would never end up debating race realism. He stopped making streams and videos on the topic. He wouldn't appear on even neutral or positive shows around the subject matter. Smelling blood in the water, he would also somewhat abandon the skeptics, and he had little to do with them since 2017. He still makes anti-progressive content, and he still talks about skeptic drama, but his direct interactions with other creators are limited to a few loyal confidants and random white women. Thank you for watching.
You see this right here? I 100% endorse this. This is good stuff. Brilliant.